Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sports Ballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
Welcome to another episode of the Sports Ballers podcast. I'm Corey Puffett, joined as usual by Eric Meyer. He wasn't here last week. And not quite yet joined by Evan Ash. He will be with us shortly, but he's having some technical issues with Skype over on his end. So he'll be with us shortly, we hope. Eric, how are you feeling this week?
Better, I guess. I'm here.
You are here, and that's
Maybe
the most
not-
important thing.
Yeah, I'm actually, doing the show, so that's an improvement over not doing the show last week, because that would have been a little tough. But
you were with us
yeah.
in spirit, and you were with us on YouTube. You were actually
Oh, yeah.
listening and contributing a little bit and making your picks along with us. So
I did what I could. I figured that the constant coughing would be disruptive last week, and I wasn't feeling that good anyway. Whereas right now I still have a little bit of a cough, but other than that I feel great. So whatever. Let's get cooking. Evan's here too.
yeah, it looks like Evan joined with his phone while his ancient computer decides whether or not it's going to ever decide to stop throwing a temper tantrum or not. How are you doing, Evan?
I'm doing fine. My computer's a piece of crap, so.
If I ever come into money, the first thing I'm buying is Evan a new computer. If I win the lottery or something, just there you go. Let's just get this out of the way with, because this is.
Well, if our
for all of
podcast
us,
ever becomes profitable, we can use some of those proceeds to buy Evan a new computer.
Buy Evan a crib so he doesn't have to be on the computer.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into today's show. We got a lot to discuss on the NFL side of things. We're going to talk a little bit about the playoff picture as it currently stands with just 3 weeks remaining in the regular season. We'll talk a little bit about our fantasy football playoffs, which are going to get underway this week, as well as the consolation games, because the three of us represent each of the three brackets this week. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. And, of course, we'll do our Week 16 picks. But before we get to the NFL, got a couple other things to talk about. We'll start with Major League Baseball, where we have an update from last week on the notable Orioles free agents that have been signed so far this offseason. Evan, you want to go ahead and list those out? Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Evan. Yeah, nada. Absolutely nothing from the Orioles. And I know that Eric in particular is a little bit upset this week because after the Yankees announced that they had reached an agreement with Aaron Judge last week and then officially signed Aaron Judge today to his 9-year contract, Eric was hoping that meant that the Yankees were done spending big, that was going to open the doors for maybe a particular left-handed pitcher who was highly coveted around Major League Baseball to maybe go to another team in the American League East, maybe even the team that is in our home state. But no, sir. Carlos Rodon signs a 6-year contract with the Yankees. Eric, how you feeling, bud?
I don't love it. You knew I would not love this. I'm not a huge fan of this. And the idea that the Yankees wouldn't continue to spend after they re-signed Judge was more of a hope than an actual prediction. I do think that it's very possible had Judge somehow gone to the Giants that the Yankees would have signed literally everybody else. So, the fact that they only got one other guy, even though he was the best pitcher on the market, wonderful. But the Yankees do what the Yankees do. They're certainly not hesitant to spend money, and this makes them clearly better. I don't know if it makes them better than the Astros, but it improves their chances against the Astros, who they're presumably going to have to go through if they want to win another American League pennant. And it's, by the Yankees standards, it's been a little while. So definitely a good pickup for them. It fills out their rotation, which has become, I don't want to say surprisingly, their stronger half, because the Yankees lineup is pretty much Aaron Judge and then hope Giancarlo Stanton's not injured, and then that's it. So the pitching staff has kind of become what their bread and butter is, especially with the emergence of Nestor Cortez last year, with Luis Severino potentially getting back to something resembling what he was before the Tommy John surgery, and of course now with Rodon and Cole. That's a formidable rotation, but
it's a great playoff rotation. I mean, you usually only need like 4 guys for your playoff rotation, and that's a top-notch 4 guys. That might be the best top 4 in baseball.
You could make the case that it's the best 4-man rotation in baseball. Again, the question is going to be, can and or will the Yankees hit in the postseason? Because that's sort of what hung them up against the Astros and almost cost them the series against Cleveland as well.
Yep.
But obviously having one more dominant pitcher in the rotation isn't going to hurt the Yankees' chances. And it's clearly disappointing when I knew it was a pipe dream that the Orioles would sign him, but watching both him and Chris Bassett sign with division rivals when the Orioles need pitching it's irritating. And I'm not a fire Elias guy. I'm not calling for his head or anything like that, but I understand playing the waiting game everywhere else, but the rotation desperately needs somebody, and to get nobody is frustrating.
To intentionally get nobody.
Yes.
Well, not like, oh, well, the Orioles, they were in on so-and-so, but they got outbid by the most valuable sports franchise in the whole world. Like, that's going to happen, right? But, like, the Orioles just on vacation. As soon as the season ended, they're in Florida or Mexico or somewhere, just on the beach doing a bunch of nothing.
Yeah, and it's not like they had to go get an ace-level pitcher. It's not like they needed to go get Carlos Rodon or Jacob deGrom. There were plenty of good quality, middle-of-the-rotation guys that are certainly better than anybody that's proven themselves on the Orioles that they could have added for reasonable deals, and they passed on them. So
they didn't do that either, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, they signed Kyle Gibson. Come on. Yeah, he's just another – he's a bum that we could have just kept Jordan Lyles if that's all we were going to do. So, I mean, again, I don't get it.
Yeah, we basically got Jordan Lyles for half the price.
Well, I'm
great.
Pardon me for being a little bit tired of saving money for Peter Angelos when we've had the lowest payroll in the sport for basically the last 5 years, or second lowest or whatever. I don't really care about your wallet, Pete. You're a billionaire. You own a baseball team. We've talked about this.
You're also in your 90s. Like, you don't need to save money.
But at that point, though, you also have to point at the kids. I mean, I can't imagine that Pete's the one calling the shots, given the fact that he's, ancient. The kids are involved here, and there's talk about the sale of the team and potential lack of interest in signing big-name free agents when you're trying to sell the team. But wouldn't you want better players to help sell the team?
One would think.
I don't feel like – I just don't feel like being able to boast the lowest payroll or one of the lowest payrolls in baseball appeals to somebody the same way that they could say, hey, we had an 83-win season kind of by surprise. We've got a bunch of up-and-coming young players, and we filled out the team with a couple of really nice pitchers. This team's going to contend for a playoff spot right now. Maybe you want to get in on this because the stadium's actually going to be somewhat full come later in the season when they're actually contending.
Well, what the current team appeals to would be somebody with money, but who doesn't want to spend big. Like, they want to be able to buy the team at a lower price than what you would normally have to pony up to purchase a professional sports franchise, which shouldn't give fans a lot of hope that whoever does buy the team is going to bring in a lot of talent in the future.
Yeah, that's ridiculous because it's going to cost like $2 billion to buy the Orioles, right? Like, so at that point, you're not worried about, tens of millions if you just plop down $2 billion. Like, you just got that laying around. So, just to spend the money, right? This is the cost of doing business in this business.
And the idea that, hey, we're going to sit there and keep the payroll sub $50 million, not only is that just counterintuitive to winning, it's also not possible given the fact that the guys already on the team are going to be making more money. So the expectation from any owner that would come in and buy the team from John or Peter Angelos or whoever is that you would have to pay more money on the payroll because that's how you run a baseball team. The idea that you could simply say, oh, well, I'm going to keep the payroll at $40 million, that's insane. And that shouldn't be
what has the Angelos family done?
The Angelos family has spent money at times frivolously on this team. It's not that they're unwilling to spend historically. It's that I think this is more of, honestly, I put this more at the feet of the front office, at Michael Elias's feet. I think this is more about a philosophy of not signing pitchers to 6-year deals, not signing position players to 10 to 12-year deals. And while I respect that philosophy, this team needs to make an exception in the rotation. And it's frustrating that they refuse to do that. It's not like signing Rodon to a 6-year deal was just going to cripple the rebuild because maybe in 3 years he's not good anymore. You'll still be fine.
I mean, if he's not good anymore, then get rid of him, right? It's a sunk cost, Right,
but the idea is you don't want to have that sunk cost, and I understand that, but the Orioles are not in a position to be concerned about 3 years later. They need to start trying to win now, and that's sort of what was promised, and overpromised and underdelivered here. That's all I have to say. If Elias had come out in July and said, we're going to stay the course and don't expect too much in free agency because we've got a lot of young talent, I would have said, okay, don't love it, but fine. When you say lift off from here and we're going to significantly increase payroll in the 2023 offseason, I'm like, okay, well, where are they at, though?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and move on from baseball. Still got several months to go, even before. I guess we got, a little more than 2 months to go until pitchers and catchers report for spring training.
Nope. Not even that.
Not even that. Okay. Well, we'll get to that soon enough. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit of NBA. It is Christmas week after all, and Christmas Day is usually a pretty good one for the NBA's slate of games. They try to have some really good matchups for that day typically, which is I'm sure part of the reason why the NFL has decided to have most of their games on Saturday this week. But before we get to that slate of NBA games for Sunday, let's talk a little bit about the Warriors. Stephen Curry is hurt. That's obviously impacting them quite a bit. Do we have any Ewing theory going on here, Eric?
Well, for Ewing theory to apply, you probably shouldn't get blown out by 38 at Madison Square Garden without your best player. So I think Steph's clear. The Ewing theory committee probably knew better than to even entertain this idea, but now they're sleeping even more. They're just snoozing. So, the Warriors are obviously going to have to try to stay afloat without Steph, and tonight's probably not going to be their night to do that either because they're playing the Nets off of the back-to-back. And it should be mentioned, they don't have Andrew Wiggins either. So that's your second best offensive player and, at worst, your third best player overall, along with your MVP caliber superstar that you're missing. And you weren't really playing well in the first place anyway. So it's not like this is a situation where you're just going to be able to lean on these young guys who we'll see if they ever actually become anything. But those are going to be the guys playing for them for the next couple of weeks, assuming that Wiggins continues to miss time. Steph's probably going to be out for a few weeks with his shoulder injury, which means there's going to be a whole lot of losses coming up. I predict one coming up for them on Christmas because beating the Grizzle without Steph, not likely. And if Wiggins isn't back for that game, it's only 4 days from now, they're definitely not beating that team. So that could be a loss. I think they're going to lose tonight to the Nets because the Nets are playing pretty well. Kevin Durant's playing great. But then they've got a little bit of a softer schedule after Christmas where they host a bunch of crummy Eastern Conference teams like the Wizards, like the Magic. And so there'll be some opportunities for them to sort of tread water until Steph returns. But some people look at this as an opportunity for the younger guys that they were hoping would become valuable rotation pieces. We talked about them before: James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody. The hope is that they'll have some opportunities to get a little bit of exposure and some playing time and be able to develop more into those roles. But James Wiseman sucks, and I don't think he's going to get good suddenly after a couple of weeks when we've seen, it's not a huge sample size. I'm not saying he's never going to be good at basketball, but he's so far away from being able to contribute to a team's playoff rotation that it's not even worth discussing it. And yet the Warriors are constantly discussing it. I'm like, you guys should have turned the page on this as soon as you sent him to the G League. But everybody's hurt, so here we are. They're hoping against hope here. But Jordan Poole's going to have to step up. He played well a couple of nights ago, and I think he had 43 points. He's going to have to be the guy. And at the end of last year, when Steph hurt his foot and missed, I think, the last dozen games or so, the first few games were really rocky. They were getting their asses kicked by some crummy teams. But then Jordan Poole stepped up and started playing like a star and kind of kept the Warriors from falling too far down the standings and helped them maintain that third seed, which was critical for them to get to the championship game or to the championship series because they had home court advantage for 3 out of the 4 series they played in. So that's going to be important for them because the Western Conference is goofy. It's not as good as people thought it would be. The Suns are good but not great, and they've got some chemistry issues. DeAndre Ayton and Monty Williams seem to still not get along. The Pelicans are good, but Zion Williamson could twist an ankle or hurt a foot or whatever and miss a few weeks, and suddenly then they're losing games again. The Nuggets haven't quite lived up to expectations, and then everybody else is just kind of in the middle of the road there. So there's opportunity here for them to get back in it, but it really depends on how long Steph is out, and that's a little bit of a mystery. They said a few weeks, but if it turns into 6 weeks, it might be time to pack it up because they're going to be too far down the rabbit hole unless somebody actually steps up and starts delivering like a Jordan Poole, like Klay Thompson, who also needs to play better. And if that doesn't happen, then they're screwed.
I also noticed in our show notes, AD hurt. I feel like it's more notable when Anthony Davis is not hurt. We should only be putting that in here when he's healthy. But to be fair, he did just go down with a right foot injury. He's going to be out at least a month, which means he will not be available for the Lakers game at Dallas on Sunday. The Lakers stink. Somebody's got to say it. So what is the impact of this, Eric?
Well, the impact is huge for Anthony Davis because he was playing really, really well. Like, he looked like the guy from 2020. He looked like the guy from New Orleans. He looked fantastic before this latest injury, which, like you said, Corey, it's not really a surprise. But the reason why it's notable is because he was returning to that form. And with him playing that well, with Russell Westbrook seemingly willing to take a step back and not necessarily be in the crunch time rotation, and with LeBron being LeBron, there was optimism that this Lakers team could actually make a push and get in the mix in the Western Conference. But if he misses a month, which is what sounds like is going to happen, they're going to lose a whole lot of games, and it's going to hurt their prospects, and they're going to be hoping for a spot in the play-in.
On the Eastern Conference side of things, the Celtics have been struggling a little bit lately. Talk a little bit about, their struggles, but also how that shapes the Eastern Conference picture as we approach the midpoint of the season.
Well, before the Celtics went on their West Coast road trip, they looked like they were going to just run away with the Eastern Conference. They were like 21-5. Some people were speculating they could win 70 games. That's not going to happen now. But then I don't want to say that this is the reason why, but it's awfully big coincidence. They go to Golden State, who was not playing particularly well, but this was when Steph was healthy. But Andrew Wiggins was not. He was not available for that game. And the Warriors kicked the absolute crap out of them. Like, they ran them out of the gym just like it was June of 2022. It looked like the last 3 games of the NBA Finals where the Celtics, who were supposed to be better, went in there and just they got beat by their daddy at this point. And it just felt like watching that game, Tatum for the first time in like a month played like crap, and it just felt like he's got maybe the Warriors are in their head a little bit here. I mean, Steph played well. Steph usually does play well. Klay Thompson had a big game. But the Celtics were the best offense in the sport, and they couldn't score on Golden State again. And again, that's without Andrew Wiggins, who was the primary defender on Jason Tatum. Draymond Green is also in their heads. Kevon Looney appears to also be in their heads. And Jonathan Kuminga has come off the bench and been a dominant defensive force for them. He played a big role in that game. And then they went to LA to play the Clippers. They lost that game. They were up on the Lakers, who, as we mentioned, stink. And they gave up a 31-5 run. And Joe Mazzulla, I don't know if he still has the interim tag or if they ever just said, hey, you're the guy, just refused to call a timeout. But by the miracle of the fact that you're facing the Los Angeles Lakers, the Celtics managed to right the ship on their own because the Lakers just stink so bad, and they actually managed to force overtime and win the game. But then they go home, they lose like back-to-back games to the Magic. Like it was such a weird turn for them because, again, best record in the East, looked like they were going to run away with the 1 seed. And now they're behind Milwaukee in the standings, and we've been eyeballing them and the Bucks the entire time as the potential Eastern Conference Finals matchup. And we saw them play last year, and it came down to the wire. It might go differently this time, especially if the Celtics don't have home court advantage like they did last year. And if Chris Middleton's healthy this go-around, I worry about the Celtics because of the coaching. And I think that was easy to ignore early in the season because they were playing so well. But there's a reason why Ime Udoka was the head coach, and there's a reason why Joe Mazzulla was not the head coach. And we're starting to see some of the flaws in Mazzulla's coaching, and it potentially could cost this Celtics team, who looked like they should be favored to win the whole thing this year.
So we're a few weeks away from the midpoint of the season. One of the team that I wanted to ask you about, who are not playing on Sunday, but the Nets. They were 10-11, and they're now 19-12. They've won 9 of their last 10 games, so they're on a bit of a hot streak. Is this sustainable for Brooklyn?
Sustainable in terms of winning games, absolutely. Does it mean anything? Does it mean they're a contender now? No way, because they're just beating a bunch of bad teams, and that's really been the case. And a lot of the games have been close. I'm not going to begrudge anybody from having a close win against a bad team, but it is like normally you'd like to see a contender would be running those people out of the gym. I think, Corey, the one loss out of that 10 that you mentioned was to Boston. And Boston was the one that did them last year in short fashion. They swept them, and it looked basically the same. Kevin Durant got rattled by that impressive defense. And Jason Tatum was the best player on the floor, which is not something that the Nets can really afford to have when they're so top-heavy with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. They need one of those guys, at least probably Kevin Durant, to be the best guy, to outplay Jason Tatum for them to have any chance to win that series. And it just seems like the Celtics have their number. It's a bad matchup for them, and they're not going to be able to get out of the East without going through the Celtics. That's just not realistic with the way both the standings are lining up, because the only team that I think could take the Celtics are the Bucks, and those are going to be your top 2 seeds.
So this Christmas slate, noon on ABC and ESPN. You got Sixers at Knicks, 2:30 p.m. on ABC and ESPN, Lakers at Mavericks. In fact, all these are ABC, ESPN.
Yeah, I started typing that in there because I thought that there might be some TNT games, and by the time I got to the 4th one, I realized it was all ABC, ESPN, and I was like, it's too late now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to delete it. I'll just finish it off.
So the 5 o'clock game will be Bucks at Celtics, 8 p.m. Grizzlies at Warriors, and then the late game, 10:30, Suns at Nuggets. I'm sure you're going to be watching quite a bit of this, Eric, but is there one of these 5 games that you are most looking forward to?
If you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said Grizzlies Warriors for sure. But with Steph out, that kind of takes some of the zip out of that one.
Oh, big
I
time.
think the Grizzlies are going to win that game. The Lakers and the Mavericks are competing for play-ins position. Like, the Mavericks are not good, and they lost one of their key players to an injury. He's going to be out for a couple of months. And so they're not even 500. And of course, as we've talked about already, the Lakers stink. So that game doesn't really have a whole lot of intrigue, although I would say the Mavericks absolutely need to win that one. The Sixers at the Knicks, that game's more intriguing than it should be because the Knicks are rolling, but it doesn't mean much because the Sixers are still better, and, I don't expect anything. The one that clearly holds my interest is the 10:30 game, and fortunately for me, that's the one that I'm going to be able to watch probably in full because that's when everybody's going to be sleeping. because the other stuff I'm gonna be busy all day, so I don't even know how much basketball I'm really gonna be able to watch. But that's definitely the game, and of course, Celtics and Bucks is huge. But I don't think there's going to be anything you really learn from that necessarily, because we understand already that this is going to be the marquee Eastern Conference matchup, and however it goes, and we'll see what they do when they play each other in May.
All right. Quickly, we'll talk a little bit about college football. College sports, I guess, in general. Not a whole lot to talk about on the college football front. None of the bowl games have taken place just yet, or at least none of the major ones. I think some of the really small bowl games are getting underway. But, of course, we got the big ones, the college football playoffs, Georgia versus Ohio State, and then Michigan against TCU coming up next week. But last week we did let it slip our minds to mention the passing of Mississippi State football coach Mike Leach. He died last week. He had been dealing with a heart condition, but wanted to make sure that we acknowledged that this week.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mike Leach is a legend. I mean, he's a legend at the podium. He's a legend in a post-game interview, and he doesn't get enough credit for how great of a coach and how innovative an offensive coach he was. The College Football Hall of Fame, I believe, has a rule in place that you're ineligible for the Hall of Fame as a coach if your record is beneath.
Uh-oh. We just lost Eric.
Yes, we did. I'm here.
Yeah.
On my computer now as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is what Eric was going to say. Mike Leach was a tremendous innovator. I don't know what happened. Eric's back now. Mike Leach was a tremendous innovator, and a tremendous carelessly at the podium, or whenever somebody stuck a microphone or camera in his face, he always had something interesting to say. It was Mike Leach who was the coach of that Washington State team that had Gardner Minshew on it. So they were quite a tandem. It's just sad to hear that. It's not like he had retired and passed away after some amount of time. Like, he was actively in the job as the head football coach at Mississippi State, and it's sad that he's gone.
Yeah, and Eric, you cut out in the middle of talking about the Hall of Fame having a rule, and then that's where we lost you.
Yeah, so the College Football Hall of Fame restricts eligibility for coaches to anyone who has a 600 or better win percentage, and Mike Leach's win percentage was .596. He was literally short by 3 games, and there's some talk about making an exception for him. And to be honest, there shouldn't be a rule in the first place. You vote for people who you think are worthy. You don't need to have some arbitrary threshold to determine qualifications. And the reason why having things like that is silly is for cases like this, where clearly Mike Leach is worthy. And I would say almost certainly he would have eventually gotten his record above 600 had he not just without his untimely passing. And so I think we can say this is silly and he should be in, because everybody agrees college football wouldn't be what it is without him, and that his coaching tree is undeniable. I mean, he plucked some guy off of his roster who was playing for him and said, "Hey, bud, you're not going to play, but I would really like you to be interested in the coaching position." And that guy stormed out because he was obviously offended to find out that he wasn't going to play. And then he came back the next day and took that coaching job. And, well, now he's the head coach at USC, and his name is Lincoln Riley, and he's the best young coach in college football. So he clearly had an eye for talent. He clearly had an understanding and a love of the game. Evan, you mentioned Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew is giving the eulogy at his funeral.
Really?
Yes. And there are many fond moments watching Mike Leach in action, but one of my favorites was after Wazoo had a big win and everybody was rocking the fake mustaches because of Gardner Minshew, and somebody ran up and slapped one on Mike Leach's face right before he was on an interview. He was all crooked and hanging off the wrong way, and he didn't care. He just left it there. He was like, "No, this is cool." And it was great. And, there's a lot of wrong with college football, especially among coaches. Mike Leach was, despite some shortcomings of his own, despite some unfavorable moments, he was definitely not something I would say was wrong with college football. He was something that was right about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't know the Lincoln Riley thing. That's cool.
Yeah, I found that out on the internet, and I actually went back and verified it because I was like, somebody could have just made that up. But it's real and it's spectacular. So,
Oh, okay.
On the hardwood, the basketball side of college sports, the Maryland Terrapins are struggling a little bit on a 3-game skid, falling out of the top 25. Got whacked by UCLA. Yeah, that team that certain former head coach of the team named Lefty Driesell tried to emulate, wanted us to be the UCLA of the East. Well, they came and said, we're not having any of that.
Well, I think it's about 50 years too late
It
to
is.
be trying to get revenge for that. Especially because it clearly already didn't happen.
Right.
As great as Lefty Driesell is, he's a Hall of Famer.
I just if Maryland's playing UCLA, I can't not mention that.
Well, and Maryland better get used to playing UCLA because UCLA is joining the Big Ten.
Yes, in the Big
yes,
Ten.
they are.
Big
Inexplicably.
Ten rivals Maryland and UCLA.
Unbelievable. So the UCLA of the East and UCLA will play regularly in the same conference, which is nonsensical, but welcome to college sports. That was probably the one where I'm like, uh-oh, this is a problem. Because they lost to Wisconsin. We talked about that 2 weeks ago because that happened the night before the last show I was here for. And then they played Tennessee at Madison Square Garden that weekend, that Sunday. They lost that game by 2 to a top, the number 7 team in the country. They were a Jameer Young floater away from tying it up, and then a Jameer Young missed 3-point shot at the buzzer away from tying it up. And there's no shame in losing a game that close to a team that good. And there wouldn't have been any shame in losing to UCLA either because despite the fact that they had a little bit of a rocky start, they came into the season with national championship aspirations. And, the Terps, despite the early success, simply were not on that level in terms of upside. The problem is when you lose that badly, that's when you start to lose the confidence of the fan base. And to me, I don't give a damn about the fan base's confidence because they need to get their asses to the game anyway. Nobody thought the Terps would be this good. Yeah, they've fallen out of the top 25, but there's a little thing below the top 25 that says also receiving votes. Well, guess who received the most votes out of those teams? Maryland. So if you want to look at it that way, they're basically ranked 26th, and if they get it turned around, they've played 4 straight really tough games. Would it have been nice if they had won 2 of 4 instead of just 1? Of course. And would it have been nice not to get blown out by UCLA? Of course. But I blame Nick Kaner-Medley a little bit because he decided to show up, and the team decided to emulate him by playing the game hungover, and they got killed. So, that's just the way it goes sometimes. So, the Terps
Is that why he was so slow and unathletic looking? Because he was hungover?
I'm being a jerk, but he spent plenty of time, a little too much time, especially during the season, over at Bentley's. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
And back when Santa Fe existed, he was a big fan of Fe too.
He was it seemed like he was moving in slow motion sometimes.
He's also a big, tall, skinny white guy.
But you're going to college
to look
for free to play basketball, right? You need to be able to move or something,
Alex Len was slow.
Alex Len was tall, a lot taller than Nick Kaner-Medley. Nick Kaner-Medley's he's like a 6'7" small forward. He should have been better than he was.
I thought Nick Kaner-Medley was 6'9", 6'10".
I don't know. If he was, he didn't play that tall because he just stood in the corner and shot threes. So that's what he did. And he also loved him a chase down block that was totally unnecessary when he could have just stayed in front of his man. But he wanted to swat the ball into the stands and get the crowd hyped. I'm like, yeah, that works about 1 every 4 times. The other 3 times they dunk it. So, thanks, Nick. Just play defense like a normal person. I'm amazed he made it 4 years without Gary absolutely killing him or forcing him to transfer. But, I'm hating on a Terp that left the school in good standing. I should probably stop that. This isn't a Chris McCray situation.
Oh, jeez.
He got kicked out because he wasn't making grades. In the middle of the stretch run of the ACC season, the Terps are going to the tournament, and their best offensive and defensive player at the same time says, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to school here anymore. I'm out."
Oh, okay.
It's just awful.
Maybe he didn't go to class. Or
He didn't go to class. That was the
going-
problem.
Playing too much Call of Duty or something.
Call of
I don't
Duty
know
didn't
anybody who
exist
did
in
that.
that fashion back then.
Oh,
There was no multiplayer Call of Duty online, so I don't know what his excuse was.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, the Terps are struggling, but they've got some cupcake games coming up, particularly one tomorrow. Your boy will be in the house, and they got another one next Thursday. Your boy probably won't be in the house because I'm going to be going to watch the other Terps down in Charlotte, maybe. Hopefully it doesn't rain. Evan keeps sending me the most pessimistic weather reports. Like, mine are all saying 55 and partly cloudy or sunny. Evan's like, thunderstorms. I'm like, can we just get a good report, please? But, yeah, so hopefully the Terps get it rolling again. This is probably the toughest stretch they're going to have, especially in the non-conference portion of the season. I still have optimism that this team will be a tournament team. And hopefully, like I said, my hope is that they win 3 postseason games, and that includes the Big Ten tournament. So win a couple games in the Big Ten tournament, maybe get one in the NCAA tournament, and your boy's going to be more than satisfied with that, especially given what we expected coming into this year.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the NFL. Lot to talk about here. We'll start with some Week 15 takeaways. Evan, we always start with your Ravens. We'll go ahead and start with them again today. They lost in Cleveland, 13-3. Lamar Jackson did not play and has not practiced this week. Today's practice report was the 8th straight that he did not practice on. But y'all are still in the playoffs. If the season ended today, you would be in. You can clinch a playoff spot with a win this week. If any 2 of the Patriots, Jets, and Dolphins lose, then a win would clinch you guys a playoff spot. Where are you at mentally as a Ravens fan right now?
I mean, it's nice to be in the playoffs, in the standings at the moment, and they can clinch this week, but this team's not going to win the Super Bowl, right? Like, I don't think they need to worry about that, because as much as Harbaugh keeps saying Lamar's week to week, no, he's not. He's not coming back. He's not coming back this season. You kidding me? Like this, that I think Harbaugh is lying to our faces again.
Why would he do that?
I don't know. Lamar was week to week last year with some other injury, and he missed the last 6 games. Oh, he's week to week. He's close to coming back. We'll see. Like, no, he's not. Just tell us the truth, okay? Let's see. All of the Ravens receivers are gone now. Devin Duvernay was put on IR yesterday or the day before.
What about Deshaun Jackson?
He sucks.
What about Prochet?
He sucks.
What about Demarcus Robinson?
He sucks a little less than those other guys.
Like Demarcus Robinson, the former Chief?
Yes, him. And the
Sammy
Ravens
Watkins
also
back.
signed former Chief Sammy Watkins, who sucks. He's the worst.
Also former Ravens Sammy Watkins.
Oh my God! So glad he got out of here.
Sammy Watkins didn't even have the courtesy of having his week 1 explosion this year to make everybody think he might be good. He
We're
just said,
still in
"Nah,
the
we're done
league.
with that."
What team
Yeah.
was he on before?
Did he sign with the Packers?
I think he was with the Packers.
Yeah, they didn't have much use for him because nobody really does in the NFL because he's not good.
Yeah, except the Ravens. He fits in perfectly.
He's the number 4 overall pick in the same
Really?
draft. Yeah, in the same draft. The Bills traded up to get him in the same
Ooh.
draft that Odell Beckham Jr. was drafted, Mike Evans was drafted,
Oh,
and Brandon Cooks was drafted. And they got Sammy Watkins traded up to the number 4 spot. Although, to be fair, Sammy Watkins, his first couple of years, did score a lot of touchdowns.
okay. Well, I mean, wasn't that the Kelvin Benjamin year too?
I ignored him because
Wasn't he
he's Kelvin
first round?
Benjamin. Yeah, he was a first rounder, but he's Kelvin Benjamin, so I didn't feel. Sammy Watkins has probably been better than Kelvin Benjamin for his career.
Oh well, yeah.
Probably.
I mean,
It's still pretty close.
Sammy Watkins wasn't described as a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end. So
Kelvin Benjamin did have, I think, 1 year.
He had
in
one really good
his
season.
rookie year.
No,
Yeah.
I thought he had a good sophomore season.
I think he got hurt that year because that was when Cam was winning the MVP with
Oh,
Ted Ginn as
right.
his only good receiver.
That's right.
Ed Ginn. Ted Ginn Jr.
Yes.
Yeah. What? Anyway, yeah. So Sammy Watkins sucks, but he fits in perfectly. You know, maybe Michael Givens can play wide receiver for the Ravens.
God.
You know, just
Michael
right
spelled
across the street.
M-Y-C-H-E-L.
There's a free agent signing.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Notable for all the wrong reasons.
You hate Michael Givens.
Yeah, he specializes in getting rocked
He
and
was
then
never-
being surprised about it.
He was never as bad as you said he was.
I don't want him anywhere near a pitching mound of any kind in the ninth inning of any game.
He was the greatest tagging pitcher of all time. You gotta
Oh,
give it.
okay. Why are
Yeah.
there so many people on base?
Why were there so many people that he was having to cover the plate for because he threw another wild pitch?
Yeah.
I'm sure I don't know. But when he had to cover home plate, damn it, he was the best to ever do it. He was fantastic at it.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds like you got a lot of practice.
Oh,
Yeah.
he looked the part.
There was always people on base with Michael Givens on the mound.
Yeah.
All
He
right.
needs a map to home plate. Back to the Ravens. Yeah, it doesn't look great. I mean, you know, they should be able to beat the Falcons this week. They finished the season with Falcons at home, Steelers at home, and then at Cincinnati. So, you know, I think at least two of those are winnable games, with or without Lamar. But I mean, it's going to the playoffs. Like you're not going to play the Falcons and the Steelers most likely in the playoffs. So, you know, or Cleveland for that matter. So Lamar either needs to be declared out for the season, like I think he is, or he needs to come back so the team can win some games.
Looking around some of the rest of the NFL, let's talk about Robert Saleh, the New York Jets head coach. What was going on Sunday? What was he doing?
I don't know. They were almost treating it like they had to score with no time left. It was weird.
It was very weird.
I don't really understand they had 3 timeouts, and I think they only ended up using one of them, and they had to settle for a 58-yard field goal attempt, right? Like, it would be one thing, like, he was almost going to get away with it in the sense that Zach Wilson had it 4th and 19, and I'm like, there's no way in hell that Zach Wilson should ever complete any pass ever, let alone 4th and 19 with the game on the line. And I was like, okay, well, the clock management issues aren't going to matter because they're going to turn it over on downs anyway. Well, the Lions let him get outside, and I yelled at my TV, you can't let him get outside, because then all it takes at that point is one guy to zip around long enough to get open, and Zach Wilson just has to chuck it downfield, and he'll catch it.
That's
and
exactly
sure
what
enough,
happened.
That's what happened, yeah. And so I was like, oh, geez. And I looked at the clock. I was like, all right, he messed up the clock, though, so they're not going to score a touchdown. You know that much. And it's like they had to settle for like a 58-yard field goal that wasn't even close to going through the uprights.
No.
And like they had basically a full 2 minutes in all their timeouts, and they ran out of time.
Yeah.
Like that is inexplicable.
They went home with 2 timeouts in their pocket.
They were just dilly-dallying. I mean,
Smoking and joking.
The thing is, like, Zach Wilson is an easy target because Zach Wilson sucks, but Zach Wilson's in year 2. Okay, I don't expect a second-year quarterback to be an expert at doing the 2-minute drill. He needs some guidance from a coach, especially because the only thing the coach is doing is supposed to be managing the clock. Zach Wilson has to do all this while also trying not to get run over by 300-pound people and complete passes to open receivers that aren't open.
Maybe he's thinking about his mom's friend out there.
I mean,
Preoccupied.
He's preoccupied with a lot of things, but it doesn't matter. The coach needs to help. Like, Zach Wilson, despite how much I don't like him and don't think he's good at football, he did his job. He got them down the field. They ran out of time because the coach didn't use the timeouts. That's all. That's it. That's what happened.
Yeah, I agree. Thought that was strange. I think I was watching on the Red Zone.
I don't understand, though, because it seems like nobody's talking about this. Like, if the reverse happened and Dan Campbell left 2 timeouts on the table and his team lost the game directly because of that, he would be getting crushed on ESPN, on NFL Live and anywhere you can find somebody, Simmons would be having a ball because Simmons gets on him for doing smart things. I mean, it's just because
Simmons is preoccupied this week. We'll get to.
Oh my God! Yeah, we'll talk about that. But it feels like Robert Saleh, who I think has done an okay job up until this point, it feels like he's gotten a little bit of a pass because people seem to like him. Because they remember him with the 49ers as defensive coordinator. They were always cutting to him instead of Kyle Shanahan because he was all energetic and rah-rah type of guy. And he seems to have carried some of that over to the Jets. But you got to call him out when he completely blows a game that they had to win. And that's what he did. He blew the game.
So was that egregious enough to get him on your list, Eric?
No. The list is for coaches who do things because they're trying to be cute. I don't think he was trying to be cute. I think he just messed up. I think he just didn't handle the situation properly. He made a series of unfortunate mistakes, but I don't think he was out there trying to outsmart the world and therefore outsmarted himself like you see Brandon Staley do on a weekly basis, or Zach Taylor, or any of the almost dozen coaches on my list. He is not one of them at this point, but I think that Mike McCarthy isn't a good coach at all, but I don't think he's trying to be cute out there. I think he's just an idiot, and that's not worthy of being on my list. There's a lot of idiot coaches out there. The issue is there is an epidemic of coaches who think they're smarter than they are in the NFL right now, and those are the people that get on my list.
Is Greg Roman on your list?
Greg Roman's a coordinator, so he's not qualified.
Well, I mean,
but you keep telling me you can't fire him. I've been saying that guy needs to go, and you keep saying they're not going to get anybody else. Well, it seems like maybe you're changing your mind.
Yeah, my mind has changed. Get Greg Roman out of here.
So let me
wherever he lives now, I will drive over there tonight and help him pack. Okay, please go. What are you doing? He said today, he was like, well, I decided to get pass happy in the fourth quarter because we needed a spark on offense. Like, I'm sorry, the Browns have the worst run defense in the NFL. And the only thing the Ravens do well is run the ball with or without Lamar Jackson. So you mean to tell me Tyler Huntley, who is throwing the ball all over the place, it's in the ground, it's in the stands, but it's not to the wide open guy. Let's throw it some more. What are you talking about right now? Okay, but just what?
We've moved on from the Ravens, Evan.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
So Eric, tell me this:
who's on the list?
If Robert Saleh, he doesn't get cute, so he's not on the list. Would not using Alvin Kamara qualify as getting cute? I see you nodding. So
yes,
this is a podcast.
Is Dennis Allen on your list?
Yes, of course. He's just awful, and it doesn't help that he coaches my team. So I have.
You're responsible for the old guy leaving as well.
That's true. So he is kind of my fault. Sorry.
You were
Saints.
complaining about the Celtics coach earlier. And
I don't care about them. Like, that's not – the Celtics can screw up their potential title chances all they want. That doesn't hurt my feelings. But when the Saints are blowing it bothers me. It's like Greg Roman bothering you. Dennis Allen's pissing me off. I mean, let's call it what it is. He doesn't use his best player, who's the only one that's healthy. Like, he doesn't use Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara's still good. It's not like he's washed. He's 27 years old, and he's had limited touches over the years, and he's still just been that good. And instead we're using – Mark Ingram not anymore because he's hurt, but we're using Mark Ingram and guys like that in passing situations.
Using Taysom Hill.
I'm fine if you mix in Taysom Hill. Why is Andy Dalton still starting? Why isn't Jameis starting? Jameis is healthy. He's been healthy for weeks. Andy Dalton hasn't played well. He hasn't earned that job. What are we doing here? Put the better guy in the game. Yes, Dennis Allen goes on the list. He has done things that suggest he thinks he knows better, and he doesn't. He clearly does not. He ruined the Bucs game. Mark Ingram, I don't know. Again, I blame him for that situation with Mark Ingram too, where he inexplicably stepped out of bounds instead of just getting the first down. But the reason he did that was because he was already hurt. So why is the old, hurt, inferior running back in the game on 2nd and long catching passes? You know who would have picked up the first down? Alvin Kamara. You know who might have cut the ball back and run another 20 yards down the field and put you in field goal range? Alvin Kamara. You might know who have gone to the house. The best touchdown maker at the running back position of the last 10 years would have maybe scored a touchdown there, but he wasn't in the game. Don't know why. Oh, right, because Dennis Allen thinks he knows better. He doesn't. He needs to go. He needs to go. One and done. Pack it up. Get him out.
I mean, but has Dennis Allen, challenged a play that would have resulted in a 4th and 9 instead of 4th and 17? Has he done that?
No, but that's why Kevin Stefanski's on the list.
Okay.
He's on the list for a different reason, but it's all under the same umbrella of just arrogant coaching.
Mm-hmm.
The Minnesota Vikings got their point differential back into the positive this week. But, yeah, they're still frauds. Came back.
Yeah.
The biggest comeback in NFL history. Vikings-Colts. Took overtime for the Vikings because they were down, 33-0?
33-0.
33-0 against the Jeff Saturday-led Indianapolis Colts. Give the Vikings credit, I guess. They came back. They did. They won. Now, both the most iconic comeback and the biggest comeback in NFL history, both at the hands of Mr. Matthew Ryan. Eric loves that.
You have no idea how much I love that. And my favorite part is the fact that something I've knocked Matt Ryan for forever, and it was totally justified, is he is the absolute softest quarterback sneaker of all time. And the Colts lined up on 4th and inches to try to just pick up the first down and be able to ice the clock out when they could have kicked a long field goal. And instead, they lined Matt Ryan up and said, go get a yard on a quarterback sneak, and he went nowhere. Like, a bunch of Colts fans were trying to say, oh, well, he clearly landed past – and it's like, no, they blew it dead because his forward progress was stopped for like 5 seconds before that happened.
Why was he facing his own goal line during the quarterback sneak?
He backs in because
Yeah.
he's too soft to
He's
dive.
always done that.
As
long as I can remember.
At it. In that debacle of a playoff game, the 21-2 or 24-2, the Giants game where they only scored on a safety, he blew a quarterback sneak in that game too. And I remember thinking, it's like, yeah, Drew Brees would never do that. Drew Brees would never.
This is football. The reason why people love this sport, playing it and watching it, is because of the physicality of it, right? Like, you got to get in there, man.
Like, Matt Ryan can't even blame this on the fact that he's old. Like, he can't say, well, I'm 37 and I'm a 15-year vet and I just...
Tom Brady's 45.
It doesn't matter because Matt Ryan did this when he was 25. He's always been like this.
But you know what I'll say, though, is... Yes, Matt Ryan is soft. Absolutely. Like, there's no excuse for him spending his entire career trying to back his way into a quarterback sneak. Like, it's the dumbest thing you could do. Dive under the line or whatever. But he's been doing this his whole career, and yet coaches still call this play with him at quarterback. Why?
Yeah, they should have put Sam Ehlinger and Nick Foles in there.
You don't even need to do that. Like, this year, we're starting to see more and more some teams are bringing their tight end over and putting him under center to take the snap and get that yard in sneak situations.
Going to bring Mo Alley Cox.
Why not?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think maybe because the idea is it's not very sneaky anymore, but I think most people know when you line up on 4th and inches with the quarterback under center, you're probably sneaking it.
You always know, like, the way that the quarterback's feet are positioned in those situations is pretty much a giveaway. Because you're basically almost in a sprinter's stance because you're going to have to get leverage to push yourself forward, and you want to do it immediately. Like, you want to get off the line, and when you're in that stance, like when you're deep into that stance, it's really hard to then come out of it to turn around to hand it off. So, like, it's not a stance that you can emulate whether you're going to sneak it or turn around to hand off. Like, if you look closely enough, you can tell by, like, how, like, just by the way the quarterback is set, that it's going to be a sneak. and you're going to be right almost every single time. So, like, yeah, it's not sneaky, but like it's power against power. That's the point of those situations. It's not sneaky when the Eagles have 4th and inches or 3rd and inches. You know that Jalen Hurts is going to run it, and you know he's going to get it because Jalen Hurts is one of the strongest players in the NFL.
He squats like 700 pounds. I don't think Matt Ryan's squatting 700 pounds.
No, he's not.
Just saying. Just not seeing it.
But yeah, speaking of the Colts meltdown, it looks like we're going to have the return of anatomically gifted Nicholas. Nick Foles has been named the starter as Matt Ryan gets benched again.
Matt Ryan benched for a case of the sucks. Not because he's hurt, just because he's bad.
Well, that's the same thing that happened before, technically, because Frank Reich said that it wasn't because Matt Ryan got hurt. Like, he was going to get benched anyway. And so they brought Sam Ellinger in. And then they bring in Jeff Saturday to be the head coach. He's like, oh, no, we're going to go ahead and bring Matt Ryan back in. And now Saturday's like, yeah, we're done with him.
Yeah, they beat the Raiders. Well, Jeff Saturday came in because he probably assumed that Matt Ryan was benched on account of they can't risk him getting hurt because then they have to pay him for next year too. But he didn't care about that because it's like, I need to come in here and try my best to win because, this is my first impression as a head coach. And unfortunately and predictably, it's not going well. But even he probably looked at this and said, dude, like, it's hard to believe that if you had told me that Matt Ryan being removed for Nick Foles at this point would be a move to help try to win games and not try to tank games, I would have said you're crazy. But at this point, it's really hard to tell the difference because Matt Ryan's terrible.
Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles?
Yeah, but Nick Foles, man, he's been bad.
He only plays well for the Eagles.
Yeah, he has to wear that Eagle green. That's it. He can't do anything else anywhere else. He was terrible with the Bears.
Terrible with Jacksonville.
Terrible with the Chiefs. The Chiefs, he retired. Wasn't he with the Rams for a hot second, too?
He's been with a lot of teams.
Yeah, and the only one he's been good with, and it's been on multiple stints, is with Philadelphia. It's bizarre.
It is.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does out there. I can't imagine the fortunes of the Colts are going to improve. They suck so bad.
Yeah. What are our thoughts on the Vikings?
I mean, they're frauds, right? Like,
yeah, we've talked about that.
I mean, you said the Vikings.
No, I know. I'm just saying, we've talked about they're frauds.
Okay. Well, what else is there to think about them?
I mean, I'm not taking anything from this victory.
No, they deserve to lose.
At the end of the day, they should have lost the game to a terrible team, and they got lucky and didn't, right? Like, the thing is, people want to try to make me say Kirk Cousins is good, and I'm not saying Kirk Cousins is good. Like,
he's better than Matt Ryan.
That's true. And he's not terrible. He's not bad. He's middle of the pack as a quarterback. That's all I'm like. But Vikings fans seemingly really want us to respect their barely positive point differential because ignore that part. We're 11-3, and they say stuff like nobody's ever talked about point differential before. I'm like, yes, we have. We've talked about this all the time in situations where we're like, yeah, that team's got a lot of wins, but they're not very impressive doing it. We always say, yeah, look at the point differential. It's not very good. Yours is just historically bad for your record, so we're going to talk about it even more.
Yep. The New England Patriots had
yikes.
Yes, a bit of a yikes moment, thanks to Jacoby Myers and a little bit to a lesser extent, Mac Jones.
And Ramondre Stevenson deserves some heat for the initial lateral. What the hell was he doing? Just get tackled, dude.
Yeah, it was bizarre. That final play, you would have thought that the Patriots were losing.
Yeah.
By 4 points and absolutely had to get into the end zone on that play. No chance of overtime. But no. Instead, we thought we were about to get overtime. We were sure we were about to get overtime. And then all of a sudden we didn't have overtime because Jacoby Myers decides to throw the ball like 20 yards backwards. I I think he actually got credit for like minus 20 rushing yards, I think, on that play.
Oh,
because
really?
of how far back he threw it.
Well, because he ran back too.
Yeah,
Like he ran like 10 yards back and then threw it to Chandler Jones.
Right to Chandler Jones, the former
Who's not on
Patriot,
the
by the way.
Patriots.
Yeah, not on the
Yeah,
Patriots
not
anymore.
He hasn't been there for a while, actually. Since like 2015.
So Chandler Jones catches it, turns, sees Mac Jones, and just, does a Derrick Henry stiff arm, puts him in the turf, and takes it to the house. And
It was more of a Jawan Howard face mush, yes, maybe.
Yeah, probably a little more of that.
It
But
looked personal, right?
Yeah, Corey, you said it already. I have a little bit of a hot take, but maybe it's not so hot. Yeah, like clearly Jacoby Myers is the primary culprit of what went down. Mac Jones, you got to make that tackle.
Oh, yeah. Grab something, you know?
at least slow him down enough for somebody to catch up.
Right, and this is the thing, is like people, when you say that, they're like, you can't expect him to make a tackle. He's a quarterback. I'm like,
He's a football player.
I'm like, dude, if Chandler Jones had the ball and was coming with a full head of steam and had eyeballs right on Mac Jones, and Mac Jones got run over and didn't bring him down, I would say okay. Chandler Jones was standing still and wasn't even facing Mac Jones. All you have to do is run into his legs and he'll fall over. Like, here's the thing. People are like, well, quarterbacks aren't paid to tackle. They're paid to play football. And the fact that I can say there's only maybe 5 quarterbacks in the league that wouldn't have made that play, and Mac Jones is one of them. When you're in the bottom 5 of anything involving quarterbacking, you suck and you need to do better. Like, he needs to make that tackle.
Yeah, he's got to make that tackle. I mean, he looked like a turtle on its back. Like he was just immobilized and inept in that moment.
He didn't even get a hand on Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones got his hand on Mac.
Yes.
And then just shoved him away, and he like T-Rex armed it or something. Like, it was weird. He had zero interest in making a play there. Like, he was praying that he didn't get hurt. Like, he was just like, don't kill me, Chandler Jones. You're bigger and stronger and faster than me. Nah, dude. Get him on the ground. Or at least grab onto his leg like Jeff Van Gundy or something until the cavalry shows up and pushes him over. And he did none of that.
I was reminded of, I think it was the 2020 season. The Ravens were playing in Indy, and somebody for the Colts, I think, fumbled and was scooped up and returned for a touchdown by Chuck Clark. And on the way to the end zone, Phillip Rivers attempted to tackle Chuck Clark, and was a very similar level of effort and a very similar outcome. Phillip Rivers, who was like 98 and 10 kids deep at that point, really couldn't make an athletic play on that play. Like Chuck Clark just jumped over him while Rivers was on his back with his arms and legs up in the air.
I remember that play.
Like, it looked exactly the same.
The
same thing happened.
The thing with like, a lot of people would say, well, these old geezer quarterbacks like Tom Brady would have made that tackle.
Tom Brady's a big man.
Tom Brady's big, and Tom Brady has shown he's willing to do whatever it takes, legal or otherwise, to get somebody on the ground after a turnover. Like that goofy, that attempt to throw the ball deep to him, which
the one in the international game.
Yeah, he tripped the guy.
Yeah, he did.
That was a penalty.
It was
a 10-yard penalty. Wouldn't Mac Jones rather have a penalty in that situation? Now, they would have said, okay, now they get a free play, but at least they had to do something to win at that point. At least they had to kick a field goal. Like, he just didn't do anything. He just stood there and let himself just get Chandler Jones. Just, eat dirt, dude, and that was it.
Yep. The Commanders look pretty done. So they had won 6 of 7 games.
Done?
And then they tied the Giants in New York. And you figured, getting a tie on the road, you get a week off for your bye week, and then you get to play the same team, this time at home. You should win that game.
Night football.
You should win that game.
They
lost by 8. Giants scored the same number of points they did 2 weeks earlier. Commies scored 8 fewer. So Washington right now does have the number 7 spot in the playoffs. If the playoffs were to end today, they would be in the playoffs. But they got a tough road. They got to play the 49ers this week.
In San Francisco.
They got to play the Browns on New Year's Day. That one's at home. Browns aren't very good. But, I'm not going to sit here and say that Washington's going to win that game. I call that one a bit of a toss-up right now. And they got to play Dallas.
Where is that game?
That's also in Washington.
Okay.
At FedEx Field. But Washington has not done a very good job in end-of-season games. And the Cowboys are going to be playing for something. The Cowboys have locked up a playoff spot, but they're going to be playing for potentially seeding, trying to hold on to that 5 seed.
I don't think so.
Maybe even playing for the division. The Cowboys could be playing for the division.
No chance.
Maybe.
They're 2 games behind the Eagles. They play the Eagles this week, possibly without Jalen Hurts. If the Cowboys win that game, they're 1 game back with 2 games remaining. Depending on how severe this Jalen Hurts injury is, Cowboys are in play.
Yeah, but I wonder what the status of the Cowboys are 10-4 because they lost to Jacksonville.
They're 10-4.
That's
so they're 3 games behind the Eagles. So they would need to win out, and they would need the Eagles to lose out.
Yeah.
And they would need an additional tiebreaker because the Eagles already beat the Cowboys this year, right?
Once, but the Cowboys would beat them this week if that happens.
Right. So they would need the season series would be tied.
Yeah.
And they would be tied in the overall standings. So the next tiebreaker would
probably
be
division
record,
which would mean they'd absolutely need to beat the Commanders.
Yeah.
Yeah, but come on, that's not going to happen. The Eagles are not going to lose out.
No.
We'll just have to see what happens with Jalen Hurts.
I don't think it's good. They're going to rest Jalen Hurts this week because they don't need him, and then he's going to play next week, and they're going to win that game, and then they're going to have it all locked up. And
it's a little risky to do that again's the Cowboys, and also I don't want that to happen because I'm in the playoffs this week, and damn it, I need him.
Oh well, the Eagles have the Saints on New Year's Day, so
they're going to wax.
That'll be a W.
Yeah, they're going to eat a W down
home
there.
game.
Yeah, they're going to roll.
Anyway, back to the Commanders. They're in a bit of a tough spot, and with both the Seahawks and the Lions right behind them, the Lions have a pretty easy final 3 weeks on their slate. Like, the pressure's on Washington right now.
I agree. I think the Seahawks have a tough schedule. They got the Chiefs this week.
Yeah, Seahawks probably aren't winning out, so the Seahawks would need Washington to lose 2 games.
Yeah, they've got the Chiefs and the Jets, and the Jets are obviously pretty competitive, so they could lose 2 out of their last 3. But there's only 1 spot available at this point, right? Because the Cowboys are going to occupy 1.
They clinched.
The Cowboys have clinched. So there's 4 teams that have clinched in the NFC: the Eagles, the Vikings, the 49ers, and the Cowboys.
Yeah, but now the commies ain't catching the Giants because the Giants have the tiebreaker and the 1-game lead on them.
Yep.
And so that leaves 1 wild card spot.
Yeah.
Between the Seahawks, the Lions, and
the Packers are 6-8. They're still alive, but the Packers are done.
They're done. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's really it's the Giants, Commanders, Seahawks, and Lions fighting for 2 playoff spots.
And I feel pretty good about the Giants getting one of those at this point.
At this point, I do too. It's certainly not. It's not impossible the Seahawks and the Lions could both jump in, but that'd be asking a lot, especially for the Seahawks.
Well, the point is that the commies sure as hell ain't catching the Giants.
No.
So that means that they need to keep both the Lions and the Seahawks out. The Lions, like I said, they could win out for sure because they got the Panthers this week.
Yep.
The Panthers are not good. They play the Bears again?
The Bears. New Year's Day.
And then they play the Packers. Green Bay, 1, sucks, and 2, they're probably going to be eliminated by that point. Rodgers ain't going to play that game. They're going to put Jordan Love out there.
Yeah, it is in Green Bay, but
if Jordan Love's out there
who was the quarterback, the backup for the Packers who played Week 17 against the Lions that one year and turned it into a contract? Matt Flynn,
and got paid and then never played for them. Yeah, they gave him a bunch of money and then
the Seahawks did.
Yeah, the Seahawks did, and they drafted Russell Wilson, and they're like, oh, wait, Matt Flynn sucks, and this guy's better. Let's
Wait,
start
was
him.
it the Seahawks or was it the Raiders? I thought it was the Raiders.
It's the Seahawks.
The Seahawks. I think the Raiders also paid him at one point, but that was after the Seahawks.
Oh, okay.
The Seahawks were the team that shelled out a decent amount of money.
It's like $100 million.
Yeah, but there weren't very many guarantees on it, though. So he ended up not costing that much. But they were like, yeah, we're going to start the third-round pick, who's a future Hall of Famer, instead of this bum who we decided to give a bunch of money to because he played a really nice game against the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really? The Lions? You're just like, let's give the guy money because he lit up the Lions. Okay, great idea. Jeez.
So, real quick, speaking of Jalen Hurts being hurt and potentially not playing this week, his MVP odds pretty much went off a cliff. If he doesn't play the rest of the season, then that's likely not going to happen. Who jumps back in? Is it Josh Allen?
Patrick Mahomes is the prohibitive betting favorite to win the MVP at this point. Like, it was before the news about Hurts' injury. Hurts was a favorite. He was favored over the field, but not by a ton. And I thought that was a little disrespectful to him because, like, I was going to talk about this week how I felt like Jalen Hurts his MVP chances are being suppressed by the fact that people just don't want to admit that he's better than they thought he was. But that's kind of a moot point if he doesn't play, because if he doesn't play, he can't win the award. I feel like even if he misses just the one game, like if he misses the Cowboys game and comes back, they're going to find a reason not to give him the award because they don't want to. Like, they don't want to believe that this guy is actually the MVP, even though up to this point he's the clear winner, right? Like, his team's 13-1, they're running away with the top seed in the NFC, and he's been fantastic. I mean, yeah, Patrick Mahomes has 3 more touchdowns than he does, but even with the 2 picks that he threw this week, he's still got only 5, and Mahomes has 11, which I think is tied for the league lead.
And Hurts has been amazing running the ball too.
Yeah, Hurts has like double-digit rushing touchdowns on the best team in the league. That's pretty much, you're the MVP. Like, that's usually how it works at the quarterback position. But people are like, I don't know, I think it might just be the team around him. I'm like, who cares if it's the team around him? He's playing great. He's the MVP.
Yeah, I mean, usually when it is the team around him, they give the quarterback the MVP anyway.
Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce when he won the MVP.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I got no issue with Mahomes winning it. Obviously, he's a deserving candidate. And if we're not making any bones about it, Patrick Mahomes is still a better football player than Jalen Hurts is. But in any other year, the circumstances would be Jalen Hurts is running away with the MVP. This year, it hasn't really been treated that way because, again, it's the same thing with Tua. People don't actually think he's good, and so they're discounting his performance and his production.
Yeah. So Hurts has not been ruled out for this weekend yet, but it seems to be training that way. He did not practice today. Would not have practiced if they had practiced yesterday. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Let's talk a little bit about the playoff picture. We already mentioned on the NFC side, the Eagles, Vikings, 49ers, and Cowboys have clinched playoff spots. Vikings clinched the NFC North. The 49ers clinched the NFC West. Eagles and Cowboys are still, the Cowboys are still in play for the NFC East, but it's looking like the Eagles are going to clinch that. But the Cowboys will have a wild card. So that leaves one division, the NFC South, which the Buccaneers currently lead at 6-8. Yeah. And then you've got the 2 wild card spots currently occupied by the Giants and the Commanders, but the Seahawks, Lions, and Packers are in contention. We've talked about that. The Bears, Rams, and Cardinals have all been officially eliminated from the NFC side of things. And in fact, I think all of us have already eliminated the Bears and the Rams. Somebody has not yet eliminated the Cardinals.
That's you.
No, I was the first person to eliminate the Cardinals. I did that in week 12.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think.
Yeah, I've been holding out on them for a little bit.
Yep.
What are you waiting for?
Well, this is an easy opportunity to eliminate them. So I figured.
And he needs an easy one because he's got the last pick in our eliminated team competition this week.
Well, and the thing is, one of the benefits of eliminating teams that might actually make the playoffs is it's a lot easier on the back end because there's a lot of easy pickings. But you just have to hope that those teams don't actually make the playoffs. Like the Seahawks, for example, who I eliminated in week 1, are certainly in the mix, which is discouraging. But
So are the Giants, who I eliminated in week 1.
But if they end up not making it, that's going to make this easier for me because it's like, well, damn, now, like, once they get closer to they can't make it anymore, you guys have to pick them, and it's like, all right, take care of them back in week 1.
Yep.
So, the only downside is if they make it, I look like the world's biggest asshole. So
I've already eliminated 9 NFC teams, and I didn't include the Seahawks, so they have to make it.
Who is in the hunt that you killed?
Washington.
Oh, okay. Well, you might be okay there. Did you kill the Lions?
No.
Have I killed the Lions?
Or maybe I did. No,
I feel like we all did.
I killed. Yeah, we've all gotten rid of the Lions.
Oh, never mind.
We'll get to the eliminated team in a little bit. We're
playoffs
not at that yet. I was just talking about that in reference to the teams that have beneficially eliminated. Let's talk about the AFC side of the playoff picture because we've already talked about the NFC. The Bills and the Chiefs have both clinched playoff spots. The Chiefs clinched the AFC West. The AFC East is still technically in play because the Dolphins are 3 games behind the Bills, but it's looking like the Bills are going to lock that down. If the season were to end today, the other 5 teams in the AFC would be the Bengals at 10-4 and the Titans at 7-7, leading their divisions. And then the Ravens at 9-5, the Chargers 8-6, and the Dolphins 8-6 with the 3 wild card spots. Also in contention, you've got the Patriots and the Jets at 7-7, and you've got some 6-8 teams: the Jags, Raiders, Browns, and Steelers. Some of those teams, I think we can go ahead and write off the bat. I think we've all eliminated the Steelers. Actually, we have not all eliminated the Steelers. Yes, we have. We've all eliminated the Steelers. Somehow they didn't get bolded on a couple of these lists. And we have all, I believe, eliminated the Browns.
I have not eliminated the Browns. Yet.
Yes,
Spoiler
Evan
alert.
has not.
Could be changing in a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll see. The Raiders, we have all eliminated.
The Raiders. Yeah.
And the Jaguars, we have not all eliminated. In fact, I'm the only one who has eliminated them, and I'm a little bit nervous because I think
they could win their division.
Yeah.
They're a game back in the division.
Yeah, they're very much in this and looking.
Didn't they just beat the Titans
lately.
as well?
They did.
Yeah, they beat them bad too.
Yeah, they're looking pretty good right now.
Y'all laughed at me earlier in the season when I suggested that the Jags could win this division. You're like, oh, come on.
I don't remember laughing at you about
that.
that.
I did not laugh at you. I said that's very much on the table.
Yeah,
I definitely do not remember laughing about that. But
there's a reason why I haven't eliminated them because I'm like, this division's terrible. I'm not putting all 3 non-Titans teams out until I'm sure the Titans are going to hold it down. And, well, I'm not sure they're going to hold it down. Yeah.
I'm getting nervous. I eliminated them back in week 11. I'm the only one who has eliminated them so far. But let's talk about the Patriots and the Jets primarily because they're only a game out of the wild card. Do we think either of these teams can catch? The Ravens seem like they're probably safe as far as making the playoffs.
That's what we said last year too.
Yeah,
that's true. They lost all the games.
But focusing on the Chargers and the Dolphins primarily, do we think the Patriots or the Jets can catch either of them?
I know the Chargers aren't going to get caught. The Chargers, if you'll allow me for a second, the Chargers have a magic carpet ride schedule the rest of the way. They have the Colts on Monday. That's a dub. They have the Rams on New Year's Day. Need a W with that one. They don't have any players. And they have the Broncos who can't score any points. So, you get a field goal in like the second quarter. That's the game against the Broncos.
As long as you score 18 points.
As long as you score like 3. Like, it's just, So, that's an 11-6 Chargers team right there. So, obviously, the Patriots and Jets at 7-7 aren't catching them.
So the question really is on the Dolphins, because the Dolphins, they play the Packers this week, but then they play both the Patriots and the Jets to close out the season. So that makes things very interesting.
I feel like, for one thing, Tua owns Belichick. We know that. He's 4-0 against him.
Really?
Yeah.
This game is in New England in January, though.
He's beat him in New England before. I don't think the Patriots are good. I think they stink.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like the Dolphins are definitely a better team than them, so I think the Dolphins should win that game.
And the Dolphins play at home against the Jets in week 18.
Yeah, and the Jets beat the Dolphins back in earlier in the season, but Tua wasn't playing, and the Jets were also in a better state back then. I think Breece Hall was healthy.
Yep.
They weren't having to roll Zach Wilson out there. Like I don't even remember who. I don't think Zach Wilson started that game, or maybe he did. I don't know. But
Might have been a Joe Flacco game.
yeah, it might have been a Flacco game. So that's a winnable game for the Dolphins. The Jets are kind of teetering, I think. They also have to play the Seahawks. I think that's on the road. So that's not an easy place to play. I feel like the Dolphins are the best team of the three, and they're in the best position right now, so they should get there. But you never know what happens. I think the Jets also have an issue with the fact that they got swept by the Patriots. Like that is costing them in terms of tie-breaking status.
Yikes.
And if the Dolphins end up splitting with them, those two losses to the Patriots are going to be very detrimental when it comes to tiebreakers because
the division record tiebreaker.
Yeah, and because we know that both the Dolphins and the Jets split with the Bills. If they split with each other and the Dolphins have beaten the Patriots either one or two times, that puts them ahead of the Jets.
Yeah. So my feeling is that the only AFC playoff spot that's really still in play is that AFC South division title. I think that the rest of the field is pretty much set as it is right now. So
Eric is on mute.
Eric is on mute. But the Texans and the Broncos are the only two teams that have officially, mathematically been eliminated on the AFC side. And those two teams we all have eliminated in our eliminated team contest. So let's go ahead and talk about that real quick. Every week we eliminate a team from the playoffs. The first pick of the week goes to the person who won the Pick'em contest, the game picks against the spread from the previous week. And once again, that was me. Evan was second place this past week, so he gets to go second. And Eric had a really rough week. So I went 10-6 this past week against the spread. Evan went 9-7, and Eric went 6-10. Woof.
I was sure I was going to be in last place.
Yeah.
I when I turned off Red Zone, I didn't want to check the sheet. I'm like, I know I didn't get all these right.
This is a situation where, after you've been on vacation or a cruise or something like that, and you don't really want to step on the scale because you know it's going to be real, real bad. But then when somebody just presents it to you, you see it and you're just like, oh, wow.
Got some work to do.
Yeah, that was how I felt when I saw 6-10. I was like, ooh, is that bad? Ooh.
Yeah.
I knew it was bad.
I had a really bad start to the week. I did not do well in those early week games, but I closed very well. So on the season, I have 114 points. Evan's in second with 106, and Eric is 10 points behind me with 104. Go ahead and shout out the fans who are competing. We still have 3 guys who have entered every single week of the season. Feel that people have fallen off as we've gone on and as they've fallen out of contention. So Andrew Perez won this past week with 8 points. He's now only 2 points behind James Daly, who has the lead for the season with 98 points. Andrew is 96. Sean is 94. So we are all still clear of the fans, including you, Eric. So you can at least rest easy on that.
Yeah,
including you, Eric.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, whatever. All right. Since Corey's being a jerk about it, I was playing hurt. I'm gonna make that excuse.
Oh, please.
My brain was full of goo, and I was coughing and miserable. I couldn't focus.
So Lone Wolf picks from last week. I was alone picking the Dolphins to cover the 7.5 points against the Bills. I was also alone in picking the Giants to cover the 4.5 against Washington. Evan was alone picking the Browns to beat the 2.5 point spread against Baltimore. They were favored in that game. And he was alone picking the Texans to cover the 14 points against Kansas City. So I went 2 of 3. Evan went 2 of 4. Oh. And Eric was 0 of 3.
I mean,
I'm
not surprised.
So
the fact that I did so badly.
Yeah.
Probably didn't win any ones where you all lost, so makes sense.
So let's go through the teams that we have all eliminated so far. In order, I have eliminated the Giants. I'm the only one who's eliminated them so far, and it's looking pretty good on you guys. I'm really nervous right now. It's not looking good for me. They're almost guaranteed to be in. I've eliminated the Panthers, the Falcons, Washington. I'm not the only one, but I'm one of two, and that's not looking great right now. Houston, Detroit, Vegas, Cleveland, Chicago, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Arizona, the Rams, the Broncos, and the Steelers. So I've eliminated 8 NFC teams, which means I can only eliminate one more, unless I'm just punting on the conference. I am going to eliminate an NFC team this week, and I'm going to join both of you who have already eliminated the New Orleans Saints.
Those Saints, yeah.
So, I think they're done. They're not eliminated, but they're at the bottom of the NFC in the hunt picture. So, yeah, they're out. Evan.
The Saints' playoff chances are still alive, but only just.
Yes, exactly. Evan, you get to pick next. You have eliminated the Houston Texans, the New York Jets. You've eliminated Carolina, Atlanta, Washington. You've eliminated Pittsburgh, Detroit, Denver, Vegas, Green Bay, the LA Rams, Chicago, Indianapolis, New Orleans, and Arizona. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 NFC teams.
Mm-hmm.
You've already eliminated all of them that you can.
Yes.
Are you nervous about any of those?
The only one that's currently in playoff position is Washington.
And you've also eliminated probably the most likely team to usurp them, which is Detroit.
Yeah. I haven't eliminated Seattle. So.
No, you have not. So there is that. There is that possibility.
New Orleans is
slim.
toast because they've got 2 road games outside in cold weather cities the next couple weeks. I can't even remember who they're playing this week, but I know they have Philly next week. If you're on a Southern Dome team, you're not gonna win. It's gonna be freezing cold everywhere. Seems like. I think the Saints are playing Cleveland, so it's gonna be a little frosty. Speaking of Cleveland, y'all are done. Maybe I'm just a little salty from Saturday, but you have 8 losses, right? So you're not winning the division. There's too many teams to leapfrog in the standings to get that number 7 spot. Because the Browns are in 3rd place among the 4, 6, and 8 teams. They're only ahead of Pittsburgh. So they have to leapfrog the Jets, Patriots, and Dolphins to get in the playoffs. Make up 2 games in 3 weeks, unlikely. So.
All right. So Evan now makes it 3 out of the 3 of us who have eliminated the Cleveland Browns.
The Browns and the Dolphins they should have played each other this year, right? What was the outcome of that game?
I don't know off the top of my head. But the Dolphins have been good, so I would imagine they probably won that game. Eric, you are up. You have eliminated the Seattle Seahawks, the only one to eliminate them. But it's starting to look a little bit better for you recently. They're very much on the outside looking in.
Yes.
You've eliminated Atlanta, Chicago, the New York Jets, Pittsburgh, Vegas, Denver, Carolina, Detroit, Houston, New Orleans, Cleveland, Green Bay, the LA Rams, and Indianapolis. So you have eliminated 8 NFC teams. So you do have one more that you can eliminate on that side. Who are you getting rid of this week?
Oh, man. So you're saying I've eliminated 8 NFC teams. So that means I've eliminated, 7 AFC teams?
Yes.
So who do got the Patriots? I have not eliminated them.
None of us have eliminated the Patriots.
Yeah, I haven't done the.
They were on my list. I might have picked them today.
They're definitely a consideration, but that might be premature. I'm trying to remember who my easy pickings one. Oh yeah, the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, kill them.
All right. So gonna go ahead and finish off the NFC.
I feel okay.
Fair enough. All right. So
Although the Lions are going to be a pain in the ass.
So we have now all eliminated the Arizona Cardinals. So let's quickly look at the 5 teams that have been mathematically eliminated from the NFC or from the NFL playoffs, and look at who was the first person to eliminate them in our contest. We have now all eliminated all 5 teams that have been mathematically eliminated. Evan was the first to correctly eliminate the Texans. He did that in week 1.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Eric,
same number of wins as the Texans have this season.
yes, it is.
1.
That's true. Also, the same number of ties that they have. Eric was the first to correctly eliminate the Bears. He did that in week 3.
Oh.
Eric was also the first to eliminate the Broncos. Did that in week 7. Evan was the first to eliminate the Rams. That was in week 11. And I was the first to eliminate the Cardinals all the way back in week 12. So those are the 5 teams that have been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. We'll look at the other teams as we go forward. Let's talk a little fantasy football.
Well, I want to mention the Browns lost to the Dolphins 39-17 in week 10. So the Browns need to win all the games. The Dolphins need to lose all of theirs for the Browns to pass the Dolphins.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. All right, so let's talk about fantasy football. In our league, it's a 12-team league. 4 teams make the playoffs, 3 division winners plus a wild card. The next 4 teams play in the Butkus bracket, named for one of the greatest players in NFL history to never appear in a playoff game. Crazy that Dick Butkus never
appeared in a playoff game?
Never appeared in a playoff game.
Oh.
Yep, never made the playoffs.
Wow.
And then the bottom 4 teams play in the Snyder bracket, named for, I wouldn't even say it's arguable at this point, that he is the worst owner in NFL history.
History. Is he might not even be the worst owner in Washington football team history, right? Didn't they have
true.
George
They
Preston
did
Marshall
have
or
George
something?
Preston Marshall.
Yeah, who named them the R words anyway, because, he felt like it. They were the last team to integrate because of him.
Snyder's pretty bad.
I mean, Snyder didn't do that.
That's true. The NFL, I don't want to say the word disintegrated because that's not appropriate, but they stopped being integrated because of George Preston Marshall. It's not like it was just long-standing that this happened and he was just holding out. No, he was the guy that said, these black dudes in the NFL, they got to go, and kicked them out.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I'm going to give him top of the list over Danny Boy.
That's fair. Worst in our lifetimes, anyway.
That's probably
Dan Snyder. So, our top bracket are playoff teams. I'm in it. I'm the top seed. Finished my season 12-3. Sean Kennedy is in. Finished his season 10-5. Sean will play William Battle, who is the wild card. He was in my division, but managed to still make the playoffs despite having to face me twice. And I will face Brandon Saunders, who had a really rough 2021 season, but has bounced back. And he's the only one of the 4 of us who has not won a league championship before. He made it to the title game back in 2013, our very first year of the league.
Is he the one who beat me when I had the best team in 2013?
I think
I'm still salty over that. It's been 9 years.
Brandon was like 6-7 that year too.
Yes, he beat
Brutal.
you. Or no, Evan, you had to play against Danny in the playoffs.
Oh, okay.
Brandon beat Anthony in that one because that was at that point we not only had 4 divisions of 3 teams, but we also had them in conferences. So the 2 AFC divisions automatically played each other, and you and Danny were the AFC East, AFC West teams.
Did I lose by the home field advantage or whatever?
We had gotten rid of home field advantage when we started this league. We used home field advantage in the old 16-team Just Do It league. When we reorganized, we got rid of all those gimmicky things.
You see,
all the gimmicky things,
a
really,
big
like
part
keepers.
of this for all the things that you guys give me gas for whining
The Pro
about.
Bowl.
I was the first person to whine about the home field advantage. Corey got rid of it. I was one of the many people that whined about the 4 divisions of 3 teams and no wild card. We changed that. So, whining helps sometimes when it's justified.
Plant the seed in your brain that keepers are stupid and get rid of them.
I mean, I'm with you on keepers, but I don't hate them enough to actually quit the league.
I'm not quitting the league.
And Corey loves them. Corey's I'm the commissioner in name only. Corey is the actual commissioner. If he wants something, he's gonna get it. So, yeah, he knows.
Pretty much.
Yeah. When you do all the work, you get all the stuff you want. That's
fair.
I don't do squat for this league. I might as well just be in the league. I'm a co-commissioner. I'm like, what the hell did I do to deserve that? I don't do anything.
We can take your
You
name
didn't
off
ask
of
for
it.
that title.
We can take your name off of it.
I mean, it's a little late now.
10 years.
And I did get the trophy when we actually had a traveling trophy made, which still pisses me off we don't have that anymore because I live right by Dottie's now.
Yeah.
But,
all right. So that's the playoff teams. I play Brandon this week. I may be without Jalen Hurts, which sucks because he was great for me all year. Luckily, I still have the running back 2 on the season, Derrick Henry. I have the running back 3 on the season, Christian McCaffrey. I have A.J. Brown is probably not as big of a boost for me this week if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, but I do have him. I have Jalen Waddle, who's been really good this season. So I am in okay shape. I've got the 49ers defense, and they got a pretty good matchup this week.
You're in okay shape. You're the 1 seed. You're no just being in okay shape.
Plenty of 1 seeds have lost in the first round of the playoffs in our league history. I'm very nervous.
I was the first one to do it.
Yep, and
3
Eric
times.
Eric has done it 3 times.
3 times. So yeah.
So I'm a little bit nervous this week, but we'll see. I'm going to do a preview post for the blog that'll go up tomorrow. So we'll have that. Evan, you are the top seed in the Butkus bracket. Those 4 teams are playing for the first pick in the draft. I won that last year, turned that first pick into Christian McCaffrey, ended up as the 1 seed in the playoffs. So, Evan, that may be in your future. The 2020 champion missed the 2021 champion rather missed the 2022 playoffs, but could be back in 2023.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
except you trade away his 2nd round pick.
So it don't matter. Fantasy football draft picks.
Well, if he wins this, he can take the first pick in the draft, and then that 2nd round pick is the last one in the 2nd round anyway.
And I'll get the first pick in the 3rd round.
So it's it's still a bit of a loss, but it's not as big of a loss.
It doesn't matter in the least bit. It doesn't matter at all.
Considering the one you got back for that 2nd round pick was what, like a 5th or a 6th rounder?
7th.
Oh, it was a 7th rounder.
Yeah, it was a 7th.
Steven's got 5 picks in the top 3 rounds because people are just giving them away.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are y'all doing?
Steven had a lot of good picks this year, and it did not do him very much good.
Yeah, like I said, it doesn't matter.
Okay, well then throw me the picks. I like picks.
Well, you should have offered some people then.
I gave all my people to Brandon, which is the reason why he's in the playoffs.
That's true. Yeah, he's got Dalvin Cook from you. He's got CeeDee Lamb from you.
Yeah. Which is kind of makes me torn about who to root for because, like, on one hand, I feel like Corey's team's been the best all year, and as someone who has frequently had the team that's been the best all year and not won, I feel like that sucks. So, don't love that. On the other hand, Brandon's got like half my team, so
you could feel like you almost won.
And you probably didn't get as much value as you could have got because I'm just throwing the picks in the trash.
Doesn't just give away draft picks. He wasn't just handing them over. I made him an offer. He was like, "Nah, that's too much," and he dialed it back. I was like,
"What?"
Okay, yeah, that's what smart people do. They don't just take the first offer they're given.
Oh, okay.
When Steven's begging to trade, he's like saying, "Please trade with me." And then give me your best stuff. It's like, no, beggars don't get to be choosers, and you let them be choosers.
I heard through the grapevine that Steven first only asked for a 5th round pick, and I was like, no, that's not enough. Here's a 2nd rounder.
Well,
Gotta make sure he's actually interested.
Yeah, I needed to make him want to make the deal, right?
He's been begging.
He already wanted to. We
Yeah.
knew he wanted to because he was begging in the chat.
Yeah, but
Oh
like,
my
you know,
God.
Eric
Obnoxiously so.
was selling his team off and
I
stuff.
was
and like,
I was moving in silence.
Well, for all that
real G's move in silence like lasagna, and I end up getting the worst end of it because people are just handing off picks. I didn't realize this is a free for all.
you
Here's
should
a
have
freebie.
moved a little louder.
Yeah, I guess I should have. I should have just been like, hey, give me a second rounder for some guy when your team's not even going to make the
For
playoffs.
some guy, got Justin Jefferson.
How'd that work out?
I mean, my
Justin
team's strong.
Jefferson did better than Cooper Kupp on a per game basis for Evan this year.
Yeah, because you know,
almost like
Justin
it's like
Jefferson played games and Cooper Kupp didn't.
Well, but I'm talking about like in the games that Cooper Kupp played for you versus the games that Justin Jefferson played for you, not even counting the games he played for Steven, which he was even better than. He averaged more points per game in your lineup than Cooper Kupp did in your lineup.
Oh, well,
Could've kept him for
the
better
Rams
value.
had plenty of issues.
I told
Rams
you
are
should have
toast.
kept Justin Jefferson. Better value
Cooper Kupp was
and a better
awesome.
player.
Yeah,
But Evan loves Cooper
He
Kupp.
does.
You gotta understand.
But he also loves Justin Jefferson.
But he loves Cooper Kupp more.
Anyway, Eric sold off his team. He finished the season 4-11 along with Andrew Perez. So the two of them, along with Anthony Battle and Will Massimini, will play in the Snyder bracket, hoping to avoid punishment. So
I mean, I've said what I've said about
you
this
have,
before.
yeah. You're willing to take it, if
I'm willing to
if
eat
it happens.
if it happens. Like I said, I feel like that would be a
pun
good thing for the
intended.
league.
You know, go to Waffle House.
Hey man, I
That sounds
feel like
delicious.
it does.
I might swing by the Waffle House. You know,
Dude, my dad got really diabolical with him when I mentioned the Waffle House thing. He was like, "What you should also do is require the start time to be 6 o'clock in the evening on a weekday, so you have to drive out there in rush hour traffic up 270 to get to the Frederick Waffle House." And I was like, "That might be a bit too mean." I feel like
Yeah,
you
that
should-
might be a little much.
like
that would
you
be
should
great. That's right down the street from here.
Yeah, but you're not going to be in the mix for that. I'm in the
I would
mix for
swing
that,
by.
maybe. I would
Okay,
appreciate the visitor, but
So-
I feel like Corey, if he wins the Pro Bowl, is going to make me do something not as fun.
Yeah. And speaking of which, the winner of our Pro Bowl in Week 18 gets to pick the punishment for the loser of the Snyder bracket. The Pro Bowl will be between myself and Sean Kennedy. The Pro Bowl pits the top scorer for the season against the team with the best breakdown among, and in this case, I had both, but Sean had the best breakdown of the teams who did not lead the league in scoring. So it'll be the two of us against each other. We'll do a draft either next week or early the following week of players who appeared in at least 6 starting lineups this season. And that'll determine the winner of the Pro Bowl.
This is the most convoluted thing ever. Why can't the winner just pick the punishment for the last place person?
Because this
Like-
is fun.
Is it? I'm not going to remember all of the stuff in 10 minutes.
Sean and I
Like
get to
you
do
just
another
said.
draft. It's fun.
Yeah,
No.
but like the thing is, it doesn't matter for you, Evan. Like you don't have to remember any of it because you're not participating in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, you're not participating in either end of it. You're not participating in the Pro Bowl, and you aren't participating in the bracket that could result in you being punished by the Pro Bowl
Yes,
winner.
but I like efficiency, okay? So
Well,
the fact you had to explain this long list of stuff.
I like efficiency in
irritating.
everything except for fake football. Fake football should be as inefficient
made
as
that
possible.
abundantly clear the last 10 years.
I mean, but Evan, didn't you start a league that has like 2 defenses starting? I mean,
Yeah, because, I mean, that's what I thought was cool in 2010 when I set that up.
Yeah, and unlike me, Evan feels like once you create a league, everything needs to be set in stone. Even though we did add half PPR like a year ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I asked people if they wanted to get rid of the 2 defenses, and they're like, well, it's kind of unique to our league now. Like, that's sort of what makes our league different. Like, okay,
I
well,
deal
we
with
can
it.
hold on
I
to
don't like it. In fact, I
Yeah.
kind of hate it, but I deal with it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird.
it's an excuse to be in another league, though. Like you're not gonna not be in the league.
I've been trying to
Anyway.
shed leagues and haven't been able to for the past 2 years. since
Shed
12-3.
leagues.
Anyway, so that's the fantasy situation. Let's go ahead and jump into our game picks. We'll have to see who the best and worst of Week 16 are going to be, the best and worst of Week 15 per Football Outsiders Quick Reads. We had Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback, Mac Jones, the worst quarterback, also the worst tackler. Best running back by both total and rushing DYAR was Tyler Algier. The worst in both metrics was Dante Foreman, who only had like 10 rushing yards on the day. I'm hoping for another one of those games this week because Brandon Saunders has him on his team. The best wide receiver of the week was Zay Jones. Evan started
on
him.
my team.
Yeah.
Y'all should have picked him up.
It's
just available.
And the worst was not a firefighter in the Philadelphia area. It was Nelson Aguilar. So we'll move on to our game picks for this week. Every week we pick against the spread, the BetMGM spread as of 5 p.m. on the day we do our podcast. That has usually been Wednesdays, though 1 week was on a Tuesday. We'll start with our Thursday night game. Tomorrow night, the Jacksonville Jaguars travel up to the Meadowlands and MetLife Stadium to face the New York Jets. The Jets are 1.5-point home favorites, and the wrong team is favored for sure in this game. I am taking the Jaguars in one of a few very easy picks this week.
Really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Jaguars are playing well. The Jets are not playing all that great. Jets have a pretty solid defense, but I'm unimpressed with their offense. I'm unimpressed with Zach Wilson. And the Jaguars' offense has shown that they can put up points. So even if the Jets get a couple of stops on defense, the Jaguars are probably going to outscore the Jets' offense, in my opinion.
Oh, okay. Well, I just looked up the weather for East Rutherford, New Jersey. The Jags got really lucky. Low temperature tomorrow is 45 degrees. The high on Friday is 52, but the low on Friday is 10. Oof. So, they got there a day early. I'm on the Jets because, again, road teams on Thursday night have a disadvantage. I'm sorry. Like, it's too short of a turnaround. And the Jags haven't played well on the road. Granted, last time they played on the road, they rolled the Titans. So, going out on a limb on that. But give me the Jets. I'm still, I guess, kind of a believer in them.
All right. Eric?
Yeah. I feel like the Jets are kind of limping to the finish a little bit, right? Like they won our hearts and minds when they beat the Bills. They were like 6-3 or something like that.
They beat the Dolphins too, didn't they?
Yeah, that was without Tua, and that was before we knew the Dolphins were actually good with Tua, because he kind of got hurt pretty early. Yeah, I feel like the Jets are fading a little bit. The Jaguars have kind of turned things around after their midseason swoon, right? Like coming out of the gates, we're like, hey, these guys look like they're pretty good, and then they just decided to suck for 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. But feels like they're back a little bit. I feel like they're heading in the right direction. I feel like the Thursday night road team has, kind of proven to be a little bit overrated. So I'm not going to let that influence me. I'm going to go take the Jaguars.
All right. So as we mentioned earlier, the bulk of the games this week is going to be on Saturday, including NFL Red Zone. NFL Red Zone will be on Saturday this week.
And Sunday.
NFL
Red Zone on Sunday.
Yeah, NFL Red Zone's not going to be on Sunday.
Yeah,
there's only 3 games.
Hanson says they're doing both.
Why, though?
Why?
It's only 1 game per window.
Are you guys complaining about more Hanson? What are you talking about? He's a friend of the show. Come on.
I mean, sure.
Maybe you should spend Christmas with his family, because there's only 3 games all day.
He said Red Zone both days. Maybe he won't do both. I don't know. But he said Red Zone both days.
That sounds
That
strange,
doesn't sound like that's what the truth is.
Okay.
You call me a liar?
I ain't calling you a truther.
Okay, well, we're about to find out because.
Anyway, Saturday, 1:00 p.m. Falcons at Ravens. Ravens are 7-point favorites at home. I feel like this is assuming that Lamar Jackson is going to play this week, and that's a pretty big assumption considering he hasn't practiced in a week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take the Falcons. Like, you're giving me the full 7 points. If the Ravens win by 7, you give me a push. I'd like to have the hook. I'd prefer it be 7.5. but I'm going to take the Falcons in this one. It's too much.
You got the Falcons as well because there's no Lamar. I will say though, the Southern Dome team coming on the road, the high in Baltimore on Saturday is going to be 24 degrees with wind. So that also sort of leads me to believe it's going to be a closer game than expected. The Ravens just aren't playing well, right? Like they play down to their competition at times, and then other times they just don't perform at all, like this past week. So, give me Atlanta to cover.
Yeah, I have zero faith that Lamar's going to play in this game, and therefore the Ravens without Lamar are just kind of mediocre as hell. And mediocre teams probably shouldn't be favored by a touchdown. And the Falcons are not that bad that they should be favored. They should be getting 7 points. So I'm going to take the Falcons.
All right. The Lions are road favorites at Carolina, 2.5 points. This is disrespectful to the Lions. The Panthers are garbage. The Lions started 1-6 and now have a chance to be the first team since the 1970 Cincinnati Bengals to come back from that record to make the playoffs. And they have a legitimate shot to do it. The Lions should be favored by a lot more than 2.5 points. Give me Detroit.
Oh, boy. I've got Carolina for some reason. I don't know. I'm not trusting the Lions. Maybe I should be, right? And Carolina sucks, But maybe Carolina's defense will show up a little bit, and the Lions' defense is non-existent.
I don't think it needs to exist against the Panthers.
Maybe the Panthers think they're going to make the playoffs for some reason.
Eric, who do you have?
They've got a shot at it. They're in the NFC South, so let's keep it real. Evan, I take issue with your constant claim that the Lions don't play any defense. They've played defense quite a bit the last few weeks. Held the Jags to 14 points. The Vikings scored 23, but that was like in garbage time. Held the Jets to 17. The mighty Bills only scored 28. The Giants scored 18. I realize some of those are bad teams.
Bills scored 28.
28 is still a pretty good score, even like.
They held the Bills to 28.
There's only been one game where they've given up what you would consider a lot of points in the last 5. Their defense has come along. If it hadn't, they wouldn't be where they are. And the Panthers are awful. The Lions were only favored by, I think, 1.5 to open. The line moved to 2.5, and Corey still found that disrespectful, which, I'm not going to argue the point. I'm taking the Lions.
Bills are favored by 8.5 on the road in Chicago, where they're talking about something called a bomb blizzard.
They had a bomb cyclone.
Bomb cyclone, that's what it's called. What is a bomb cyclone? Apparently it's supposed to be crazy high winds. It may or may not actually be snowing during the game, but it's supposed to snow a crap ton before the game. That's going to make it potentially really difficult to throw the ball, which is going to make it a little more difficult to score a ton of points. I'm going to take the Bears to beat that spread. 8.5 is quite a bit. And if this game ends up being as low scoring as I think it might, Justin Fields probably still run for a couple of touchdowns. He wants to break the rushing title. Not just have the rushing title. He wants to break the rushing record for a single season by a quarterback, and he thinks he can do it. He needs 203 more yards in 3 games.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he's actually fairly close. And he said this week he wants to go for it. So I'm going to take the Bears.
Yeah. I am also on the Bears. Saturday's high in Chicago is 8 degrees. So, all 8 of those degrees above 0 Fahrenheit. Going to be a little chilly. 40-mile-an-hour winds as well. So nobody's throwing the ball. Nobody's kicking the ball. It's just going to be all ground game. and I feel like the Bills' ground game leaves a little bit to be desired. And all the Bears can do is run the ball. Fields has made some poor decisions in the passing game, throwing a wounded duck pick six to his college teammate against the Lions a couple weeks ago. Give me the Bears to keep it close. The Bills should win, right? Like they shouldn't have any issues with this weather.
It's not like Devin Singletary is a bad running back. He's been playing pretty well this year.
I mean, I still like the Bears' run game better, and they're at home.
We saw what happened last year when the Bills were trying to throw in high winds. Stephon Diggs couldn't track the ball because the ball was moving around so much.
Yeah, I mean, so not the Windy City for no reason, right? The world's leading exporter of freezing cold wind, Chicago, Illinois. Oh my God. Whatever.
Eric, who you got?
Bears.
There is no amount of wind that could be blowing that's going to make me think that the Bears are going to keep this close with the Bills. Give me the Bills.
Okay. Saints at Browns. Cleveland, 2.5-point home favorites. This game has an over-under of 32 points, the lowest over-under in 14 years in the NFL.
I mean, I'm going to bet the over there.
I would bet the over
that's
as
crazy.
well. But still, not expected to be a very high-scoring game. I think this is going to end up being another game where I'm just going to pick against the Browns on principle. I think that this game could go either way. And I don't want to root for the Browns to beat that spread. So I'm going to go with the Saints.
Santa, like Santa.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got Cleveland. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. The Saints aren't very good. Now the Browns aren't very good either, but the Browns are better than the Saints. So give me Cleveland.
All right. And Eric, you said you're taking the Saints?
No, I was making fun of you
because
you typed in Santa, which is appropriate because it's like Santa. And it's, yeah, this is tough because, like you, Corey, I'm not a fan of picking the Browns on account of Nasty Boy playing for them. But at the same time, the Saints are pretty bad. They're going on the road. This line indicates that the Browns are not as good as the Saints, which I don't see that being true. So I got to take the Browns.
I think it might be true with their current quarterback.
He's played so badly, and it's the best thing ever.
It is.
But the problem is these lame-ass teams like, say, the Ravens can't actually win the game against them. So I think they're 2-0 since Watson came back, right? They beat the Texans because the Texans are hapless.
I thought they lost the first game with them. I thought they lost another game with them, though.
Well, I hope so. But come on. Just beat the Browns. Like, just beat them.
Yeah, please. All right, Seahawks at Chiefs. Also 1 o'clock on Saturday. The Chiefs are favored by 10 points at home. It's a pretty big point spread, considering they were only favored by 4 more points than that against Houston, and they could not get the job done in that one. Evan got the lone wolf pick on that game. I think this might be too much. I'm going Seahawks.
Yeah, the Chiefs play with their food too much. And the Seahawks are not bad, and they're trying to get into a playoff spot. They're going to play hard. Geno Smith's playing pretty good football.
I'm playing excellent football this year. My hat's off to Geno.
Well, yeah, by the standard that we would hold Geno Smith to, he's been excellent, yes. But he's definitely good enough to score some points on a pretty mediocre Chiefs defense. And like I said, the Chiefs have kind of been a little sleepy. Like they wake up just in time to beat teams they're supposed to. But when you're favored by 10, that's not really cutting it. So, yeah, give me the Seahawks.
I agree with I mean, Eric, you took the words right out of my mouth. Shout out to a friend of mine, Canolius Tyler Gibbs, who's in the Marines. He is a Kansas City native and a Chiefs fan. He will be at this game in the freezing cold and wind. So, hopefully he stays liquid on the inside.
Yes. Always good to stay liquid on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Giants at Vikings. Minnesota's favored by 4 points in this one. The Vikings can't seem to beat anybody by 4 points.
Aren't they like +4 on the whole year?
They're +2 now because they were
+2.
They were -1 going into the last game. They were -1 with a 10-3 record, and they beat the Colts by 3 points
in overtime.
Now they're +2, and we're supposed to say that they can beat a team by 4, a team that, by the way, is in the playoffs right now. Yeah, that ain't happening. Give me the Giants.
I got Minnesota. Now the Vikings are frauds, but the Giants are frauds too, right? Like they're a playoff team nominally to me. I feel like the Giants, at this point, when they make the playoffs, it's not going to be a long stay for them. If the Giants, or if the season ended this past week, the Giants would go to San Francisco, where they would lose probably by 50.
Is Kevin O'Connell on your list, Eric?
Not quite, but I don't like him.
I like Brian Daboll.
I like Brian Daboll too. Kevin O'Connell I feel like has gotten more credit than he deserves for having a fraudulent team.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like people are like, oh well, they're winning all these close games. That must mean they're well coached. I'm like, no, that just means you're lucky. That's not the same thing.
They have not really used Dalvin Cook very effectively this season.
No,
I mean, as a former Dalvin Cook manager, I agree.
Yeah, thank you, by the way, for sending him to Brandon so I get to play him this week. Now I'm like nervous because you never know what you're gonna get. Like it could be the best thing ever for me because Dalvin Cook could score 2 points or he could score 42 points. He has, I think, doesn't Dalvin Cook have the all-time record for a single game no, I think Jonathan Taylor broke it, but I think Dalvin Cook at one point had like the top score in our league's history with something like 54 points in a single game.
I mean, that's all wonderful, but he didn't do any of that for me, hence why I traded him and I'm in last place. So, that clearly holds no sway for me. But yeah, you asked me about Kevin O'Connell. Do you actually want me to make a pick now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Kevin O'Connell's not on my list. I don't think he's that good, though. Brian Daboll, I do think is good. But I agree with what Evan said, where like it's easy to want to pick against the Vikings because they're frauds. And, generally that's going to translate to people overrating them specifically on a sports betting line. But I also feel like people are onto the Vikings. They know they're frauds. So people kind of know that. And like Evan said, the Giants are equally fraudulent. So at that point, I just have to evaluate who do I think is better. And the Vikings are clearly the better team, and they're at home. So, a 4-point line is probably respectful enough to the Giants. And I would actually probably take this line up to 5 or 5.5. I'm taking the Vikings.
See, I think on a neutral field, the Giants win this game.
What? No
way. They got a better quarterback. They got better receivers. The defense is bad, but so is the Giants.
The Giants should have lost to Washington probably twice. Washington screwed up.
They beat Washington 1.5 times.
Okay, well they might should have lost both, right? But they didn't. Washington's better than the Giants.
The Vikings should have lost to the Colts.
Vikings should have lost to a bunch of people.
The Vikings also should have lost to Washington.
Yeah, they should have.
And the Giants should have lost to the Ravens.
Well, no, that y'all just sucked. Yeah. The Giants outplayed you in the last half of that game. Y'all blew it.
The last half? No, the last 3 minutes.
Doesn't matter, baby. It's football. You gotta play 60 minutes, man. You guys got outplayed.
The Patriots are 3-point home dogs to the Bengals. Bengals favored in that game. Evan, where are you at with this one?
It's a no-brainer for me. Bengals all the way. There's no doubt in my mind that Joe Burrow makes that tackle against Chandler Jones.
Joe Burrow makes the tackle when Chandler Jones is like, ow. He would have made him feel it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Patriots, they're toast. I was thinking about eliminating them this week. They're toast. They can forget it.
Yeah, I thought about it too, but I'm pretty, I'm riding high. I'm confident I'm going to win the picks again. I'll I'll be able to beat you to eliminating them. We'll see how that works out. Eric, who are you picking in this game?
I mean, this line's ridiculous. The Bengals are going to beat the crap out of the Patriots. They're awful. Mac Jones sucks. Matt Patricia being the offensive coordinator, we all said was the worst idea ever, and we were right.
Well, he's like co-offensive coordinator with Joe Judge, who also sucks.
Well, whichever one of those idiots is calling the plays shouldn't be calling plays ever. I also, in midst of making fun of the Patriots and Mac Jones, I did thoroughly get a kick out of the fact that when somebody asked Belichick why they didn't just try a Hail Mary, he's just like, quarterback can't throw the ball that far. And I'm like, the ball was
at their own like 30, weren't they?
It was at like the 44. It was like a 55-yard chuck for an NFL quarterback. You got to be able to make them throw that ball.
I can throw it 45 yards.
Yeah, I could probably throw it 55 yards, not near anybody like that I'm throwing
It would go over the fence.
Yeah, but I could throw it that far. But my target would have to be at like 35 yards to encourage me to do it.
Yeah.
But, that's because I'm not a professional quarterback. Mac Jones is, and he should be able to heave the ball. He's being paid in the NFL to play quarterback. So maybe only nominally, but he is, in fact, a professional quarterback.
Who's the backup quarterback? Maybe that guy's got a
Bailey Zappi?
Yeah, it's still Bailey Zappi,
right? The Zap man looks better than Mac Jones.
Didn't Zappi get hurt, though?
No.
Yeah.
No, Mac got hurt.
I know Mac got hurt, but I thought Zappi got hurt later on, too.
No, they decided to go back with Mac because they understood that they can't bench the first-round pick for some guy named Bailey Zappi.
Anyway, I'm also taking the Bengals. 3 points is not enough, so we are all on them. The last 1 o'clock game for Saturday is Texans at Titans. In the last 5 games that Derrick Henry has faced the Texans, he has at least 200 yards and at least 2 touchdowns rushing in all 5 of them. I'm hoping for more of that this week for my fantasy team. If that happens, there's no way that this game is only 3 points. I also find it ridiculous to think that these two teams are equal on the same field. A 3-point line is ridiculous. Give me the Titans.
I don't think this line is that ridiculous because the Titans have been.
The Titans are 5.5 games ahead of the Texans.
The Titans have been stinking it up the past few weeks.
They're 5.5 games ahead of the Texans.
Well, the Texans have been playing close against
people.
They're
5.5 games in front of the Texans.
I mean, the Texans have looked better, just sort of cosmetically, right, in their games. They've hung around and whatever.
Did they get some new uniforms? They touch up the paint job on the helmets?
Sure. I agree with you on
Did they surgically shorten Davis Mills' neck?
Leave the neck alone. It just
right now. Titans roll this game. I mean, come on. Titans have no business not winning by 14 points. So 3, or I guess 4, to get the pick right. Titans all the way.
We're kind of intimating that you thought the line was
reasonable
to take the other team, and then you say, "Hey,
I think the line is reasonable to be at this number considering what has happened the past few weeks."
But then you said that they should win by 14.
They should. They also should have rolled Jacksonville a couple weeks ago, and they didn't.
Jacksonville is a lot better than the Texans also. Eric, who are you taking?
Yeah, let's not do the Jacksonville thing. We already had Sean insisting that the Ravens shouldn't be being predicted to only win by 3 against them.
Well, the Ravens won by -1.
Yes, they lost the game. So this game, I mean, the Titans haven't looked great, but the Texans are 1-11-1, or I think that's their record. Is it 12 now? I don't know. But that's their record for a reason. They stink. They're awful. As long as Ryan Tannehill's not peeking through the blue medical tent and he's actually on the field, they're going to win this game by a hefty margin, I think.
Well, the Titans signed a quarterback because they're not sure what the situation is with Ryan Tannehill. They signed Josh Dobbs to the 53-man roster.
Oh. Even with Malik Willis, they should win this game by more than 3.
Josh Dobbs,
yeah,
from Tennessee. He's now playing for Tennessee.
There you go. 4:05 game on Saturday. Commanders at 49ers. The 49ers are favored by 7 points. This is another one where
it's tough.
The 7 points just kind of makes me feel like I could see the 49ers winning by that much, but I'd love to have the 7.5 to be on the safe side. But I think Washington is good enough to keep this game close. Remember, it's still Brock Purdy, who has been okay, but he, after playing really well in that first game, he hasn't looked as impressive. The 49ers are going to win this game. That's not a question. 7 points just makes me a little nervous. I feel like it's a little much. I'm going to take... Screw it. I don't feel like taking the Commies. Give me the 49ers.
Well,
I don't know what you're doing all this hemming and hawing for. The Niners are going to roll, right? Like, the Niners run the ball. They're going to run completely over the Commanders. Like, what are we doing here? Niners, big, like crap through a tin horn. The Niners haven't lost a game since week 7.
Yeah, the Niners are going to take the Commies apart. Like, Taylor Heineke cannot play effectively without a clean pocket, and the 49ers, the 49ers do nothing but disrupt the quarterback in the pocket. He's going to get sacked. He's going to fumble the ball. He's going to panic and throw bad incompletions and interceptions.
I would love that because I'm starting the 49ers defense this week.
Yeah, and you should. This is going to be a rough game for Taylor Heineke, and I feel like Kyle Shanahan and that offense, even without Deebo Samuel probably for a couple more weeks, is going to be able to do more than enough to put up points against this Washington defense that frankly isn't all that good. This is going to be a beat down of epic proportions.
And I take a little issue, not take issue, but slightly disagree with Corey, your Brock Purdy take. Like, he hasn't been that good, but like, neither were the guys he was replacing, right? Like, let's not pretend Jimmy G's Peyton Manning.
Jimmy G plays very well within that offense.
Brock Purdy's been adequate as well. Like, Jimmy G is just attractive. That's all Jimmy G does to earn the spot at quarterback.
I mean, his Nana even said so in the commercial. It's a good thing.
His grandmother?
Yeah, his Nana.
Oh,
same thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, in that Subway commercial, because Jimmy thought that she cooked all the food and she didn't, and yeah, Corey just left. Okay.
I guess we're done talking about this game.
Okay.
So does one of us introduce Eagles at Cowboys then?
Eagles at Cowboys.
Yeah.
Cowboys are favored by 4.5 points.
Yeah.
This is in Big D, as we have discussed prior to this. The Jalen Hurts situation is murky at best, so the Cowboys are 4.5 point favorites. I am assuming he's not going to play. At which point I would understand taking the Cowboys at that line. That being said, I love me some Minshew mania. And I think he's actually one of the better backups in the NFL. I think that he can take advantage of the plethora of weapons around him. I think Nick Sirianni can game plan in a fashion that will keep him from being destroyed by Micah Parsons. And I think the Eagles defense is really good, and Dak's playing like crap. So even with the line, or even with the status of Jalen Hurts up in the air, I'm taking the points and taking Philly.
Yeah, I love this line. If we were not doing spread picks this year, if we were still doing just straight up, I'd take the Eagles in this game, even with Minshew as the starter. Like, the Eagles are that much better than the Giants. They have better skill players at the receivers. Like AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, I think both of them are better than CeeDee Lamb. AJ Brown definitely is. I think Devontae Smith is also better than CeeDee Lamb. Miles Sanders is just as good as either Ezekiel Elliott or Tony Pollard. And yeah, the Cowboys have two of them, while the backups to Miles Sanders are definitely worse than Miles Sanders. But the Eagles, I think overall, still the better offense, even when you put Minshew against Dak Prescott right now, because Prescott hasn't been that good this year. And on the defensive side, I think the Eagles are really pretty much on par with the Cowboys. The Cowboys might have a slight edge. Like Micah Parsons is really, really good, and the Cowboys probably have a slight advantage at the defensive back. But I think linebacker-wise, I'd take the Eagles right now.
Like the Eagles have a better defense than the Cowboys, period. Like that's how I feel.
So I would take the Eagles to win this game anyway. So I'm definitely taking the points here.
I agree with everything y'all said, and y'all didn't even mention the coaching mismatch in this game, right? Like Sirianni can coach circles around Mike McCarthy.
Absolutely.
Mike McCarthy is kind of circularly shaped anyway. With that said, I've got Dallas. Or over Boogie.
I did over Boogie.
I wrote Dallas because honestly, I bit the cheese on the Jalen Hurts not playing thing, and it's like, oh, well, obviously Dallas is going to win. So I wrote Dallas on my sheet, and that's who I'm going with. So give me Dallas.
A sheet of integrity. I respect it.
Yes.
All right. The Saturday night football game, 8:15 p.m., Raiders at Steelers on NFL Network. At least NFL Network only has one game this week. Thank goodness. Raiders at Steelers. The Steelers are favored by 2.5 points.
Who's playing quarterback for the Steelers nowadays?
I think it's Mitch Trubisky this week.
I guess Pickett's still hurt.
Yeah, Pickett, I believe, is still hurt. So it's going to be Trubisky.
That Mitch again this week.
Hopefully Evan's dad will drink some wine, relax, don't yell to the point where he makes him sick.
It's not going to happen. No, it's going to be a little intense. I don't think it's going to be that intense because I don't think this is going to be a close game. But
I'm going to take the Raiders in this one.
What? Well, at least, say it right and say it with your chest. If you're
the Raiders!
That's like Arnold Schwarzenegger doing it. That's weird.
That was supposed to be an Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't know why I felt like going with him.
Steelers rolled.
I tried last week to do it like Berman, but it didn't work. So now I'm just going with Schwarzenegger because I can do that.
Oh. But okay, interesting.
Steelers roll the Raiders. Come on, like the Raiders are awful.
The Steelers don't roll anybody. When was the last time the Steelers rolled somebody?
Who's gonna do all the scoring for the Steelers, Evan?
I don't know. The Raiders stink. They're awful. Remember?
The Patriots are better than the Steelers.
I mean, yeah, but the Patriots blew the game, right?
Like the Patriots have a better defense than the Steelers.
No, I don't think this is going to be close. I really don't.
I feel like you've been gassing the Steelers all year for just out of 20 years of trauma.
Probably.
Like I really believe that because the Raiders are 6-8. The Steelers are 6-8. Yeah.
I feel like Evan just wants a pleasant holidays with his family.
Yeah, maybe you're hoping the Steelers will take care of this. I'm still a little under the weather, so I don't know how this is going to go. The Raiders! Yeah. Give it to me. Easy. Not even close. They can move the ball.
Yeah. Josh Jacobs is really, really good.
Again, the coaching mismatch.
That's a point, but it's not enough of a point.
It's more of a point when the two teams are pretty even. The Raiders are way better than the Steelers.
Raiders are a dome team. It's going to be really cold and miserable.
I feel like people make a bigger deal out of the dome teams than is deserved.
Really?
Yes.
I've seen some dome teams turn to a pumpkin when it gets cold outside.
Yeah, but I've seen some dome teams that are a lot worse than their opponents, and so we all say, hey, look at the dome team. It's more like they just suck. And I feel like both the Raiders and the Steelers are of equal levels of suck. So I just don't really think it's going to make that big of a difference.
Yeah, like when the Saints were really good, they were still really good in cold weather.
Oh, they could come to your house and whoop your ass, yeah. That's because Drew Brees went to Purdue, though. Boiler up.
most of the players that play
Ten West champs,
football
Purdue.
did not play in domed college stadiums and had to play in cold weather.
That's not necessarily true if they play in the SEC or the Pac-12. Most of their games are.
Yeah. There's a reason why SEC teams don't go play Big Ten teams after September. They're
Well,
scared
after
to
September,
death.
you play against your conference opponents mostly.
Not necessarily.
You
Most
can
of the
still pencil
time.
somebody in.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing that people talk about. Like, oh yeah, this is good football weather. I'm like, well then why do all the good football players come from the places where it's hot? Like they come from California or Texas or Florida or Louisiana. Like that's where all the good football players come from, right? There's no good Northeastern football players. Like New York is not a hotbed of football talent. Neither is Massachusetts or Maine.
Or Wisconsin.
I feel like there's a lot of talent in those areas that may get overlooked because it's a different type of, like, you have to play differently, and so some of the skills don't get highlighted as much.
You know what cold weather suggests that you do? It suggests you get a bunch of fat guys up front and run the ball up the middle just like Wisconsin does, and nobody likes watching them play. So there you go.
Sunday at 1 o'clock, the only 1 o'clock game that apparently is going to be on Red Zone. Like, what is Red Zone even supposed to be on Sunday if there's only one game at 1 o'clock and one game at 4:30?
I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure Hansen said they're going to be on both days.
I think he meant like for the whole season, Red Zone is on Sunday and Saturday this year. I think that's what he meant.
That's not how I interpreted it, but we'll see. I don't
Packers at Dolphins. Dolphins are favored by 4 at home. Yeah, that's not enough.
Hanson also says he hadn't had a bathroom break in 10 years. I don't think that's true either.
No, he said he's taken one bathroom break in 10 years.
Oh, okay, just one.
Yeah, I believe him.
Okay.
I don't think he
I
would
don't.
lie. Why would he lie?
Why would he say this?
Well, somebody asked him.
Why didn't you say what the
I'm
truth
taking
was?
the Dol. I'm taking. I think he did.
Circular logic.
I think he did tell us what the truth was. I'm taking the Dolphins -4, laying the points.
I got the Dolphins as well. Eric's been saying fade the pack all year. This time I'm actually going to listen. Packers garbage, Dolphins pretty good. So
You were smart not to listen last week because the Rams did not cover, although they
Yeah.
could have.
I
It
was
was
also
available.
smart to change course. I've been saying fade the pack all year too, and last week I was like, I'm not doing that this week, and I was right.
Yeah, I was
stink.
hoping that I could get just a little garbage time Baker there to get it done, but alas, it didn't happen.
No, it did not.
This is a different story. This is Packers going on the road, playing a vastly superior team. Tua looked pretty darn good against the Bills in the cold, in the snow. So maybe there was a little something to the whole it snowed in Alabama once, so therefore I'm capable of okay.
It didn't snow in Hawaii when he was growing up.
McDaniel had a T-shirt on saying, "I wish it was colder."
Regardless, Tua looked pretty good in the cold. I give him props. It gives me some optimism for the Dolphins in the playoffs because they're going to have to go on the road to maybe Kansas City or Cincinnati
Or Buffalo.
or Buffalo maybe if they get that far. And they showed they could hang. Like they could have easily won that game. But the Packers can't win anything against anybody that isn't just a mash unit. They're going to get their asses kicked. Rodgers going to have a rough day. I'm predicting he throws at least another interception. He's thrown like 11 picks this year.
That's a lot for him.
You know, he usually only threw like 4 or 5 a year. He's loafing.
Yeah.
Loafing. So yeah,
So
Dolphins.
we are all on the Dolphins. 4:30 p.m. on Sunday. Broncos at Rams. Denver laying 2.5 on the road. Woof.
I do want to point out that this looked like a great game when the schedule came out. Right? Like Russell Wilson was supposed to not suck, and the Rams had just won the Super Bowl, and they were supposed to not suck, obviously. But that's not.
Yeah, that does us a lot of good. The fact that it looked good when the schedule came out, because now this matchup is woof.
No, you're gonna have to spend time with your family on Christmas instead.
Oh my God, this is such a bad game.
A standalone game too.
Yeah,
We're all.
I
gonna
almost
have to
feel
do
like
this.
just not making a pick.
I got Denver.
maybe
Denver.
maybe Hansen decided to do the red zone even though there's a bunch of standalone games just so he could cut away from this game mid action and he could just talk. So we don't
Please,
have to
I'll
rush
take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, whatever. If Hansen does that, he will be an even bigger friend of the show.
There's going to be a Broncos home game. There's going to be so many Broncos fans at this game.
Yeah, but how many Broncos fans are actually going to bother showing up?
They already live in L.A. anyway.
Yeah, but they're not going to want to go watch the crummy Broncos. They're going to want to spend time with their fams.
I don't think people want to spend time with their family as much as they say they do.
That is such a stinging indictment of families right there.
You only get one family. You don't pick these people.
Yeah, it reminds me of cracking jokes about the dad that won't play catch with his kid because every Sunday he's got to watch the Lions. And I'm like, damn, dude, like for the Lions, you did this for to be that big of a loser? Like, wow, that's sorry, no shade to your new shirt, Corey. Detroit Lions shirt. Okay. That's cool. Anyway, this game sucks. But the Rams barely even have a professional football team out there, whereas I think the Broncos have,
half of one.
Yes, they got a defense. Yeah.
Right. They don't have a coach though.
Like Mark Rippon, not Mark Rippon. Was it Brett Rippon?
Yeah.
Brett?
Yeah, Brett Rippon.
But he is the son, right?
He is the son of Mark Rippon.
Okay. Well, Brett Rippon's not Mark Rippon, so that's not good. And he was getting absolutely pummeled last week. I forget who the Broncos even played, but it wasn't pretty. But no Aaron Donald means the Rams are not going to have anything resembling that type of pass rush. He might actually get some time in the pocket. Jalen Ramsey looks like he's declining or just having the worst year of all time. He's looked really, really bad at times. And I don't even know who they're rolling out there at quarterback. Is it still Baker? Or did somebody come back?
It's still Baker.
Okay, so they've given up on Wofford or whatever his name is. He's just done.
Wofford Terriers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way, I begrudgingly have to take the Broncos.
You'd be remiss.
The couple points. Yes, thank you, Draymond.
All right. I got a coin here. Heads is the home team. Tails the away team. And
you fumbled it. So
I did fumble it, but I got it. And that is tails. So I'm taking the Broncos, apparently.
Oh.
That made it a little less exciting.
That makes me feel better because I'm sure the coin would have won. It went the other way.
Yeah. Buccaneers at Cardinals, rather. Sunday Night Football. Bucks are 7.5-point road favorites against Arizona.
The Bucks can't score 7 points, let alone win by 7. This is preposterous.
Yeah, that's where I'm nervous. I also don't.
Nervous? This is easy.
Yeah. Well, that's where I'm nervous if I was to pick the Bucks, is what I'm saying. Like, that's where I'm nervous for Tampa Bay. Yeah, no, like this is pretty easy. Even with the worst coach in the history of the universe, even with no Kyler Murray, even with no Zach Ertz.
Is Colt McCoy playing?
No.
Even with no Colt McCoy.
Who's starting at quarterback?
I think Trace McSorley.
Trace McSorley.
Oh, my God.
Trace McSorley is making his first career
Richard
start.
McSorley the third.
Again, a backup that the Ravens had to get rid of because too many racist fans were saying he should start over Lamar. I told you.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
I don't think that was
It's happening.
the issue with Trace McSorley.
Well, I'm taking the Cardinals.
Trace McSorley was about to ruin the game until Lamar stopped pooping and came out and beat the Browns that one time.
Yeah, because Trace McSorley he hurt his knee too.
Yeah, that game was so good. Oh my God.
Oh, good. Okay, that one game took years off of my life.
Well,
Eric,
I enjoyed it as a non-fan. Cardinals. Yeah, easy pick.
Evan?
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
All right.
Really?
Really? That's
Don't you
what
love
I
the
have.
Cardinals? You always pick the Cardinals for some reason.
Yeah, but I'm so out on the Cardinals.
Look, 7.5 though, man.
I mean, Kyler's not walking through that door.
They
Colt
gave us
McCoy's
the hook
not-
this time.
mean,
Gotta take the hook.
Trace McSorley versus Tom Brady. You kidding me?
But
I
he's
mean,
old.
believe me, I hope the Buccaneers score a lot of points because I'm gonna have to start Tom Brady if Jalen Hurts doesn't play this week.
That's your backup option?
That's my backup.
You might want to find a better one.
I thought about it, but the next best guy was probably gonna be
Tyler
Davis
Huntley.
Mills.
Yeah, the neck it probably is nah.
And I don't feel like rolling with Gardner Minshew.
Also, by the way, Lovie Smith might roll the other guy out there in the red zone for some stupid reason. And just,
Who's the other guy for them?
I think they keep putting some guy out there in the red zone. I don't even know who it is.
I forget his name.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna look him up.
He started like 2 games for them, and I forgot his name.
John Skelton. Remember
No, it's not him.
Skelton's been retired. And it's not
Luke McCown.
It's not Kyle Allen anymore either.
No, it was Kyle Allen who they started a couple
yeah,
games.
but
though.
like that's not who I'm talking about.
Oh,
There's somebody else.
Yeah, I'm looking up the Texans depth chart now. Jeff Driscoll. That was it.
Oh,
yeah.
geez.
Jeff Driscoll from Florida.
Yes.
In any case, Tom Brady is the QB 13 for our league this year, so he's like borderline starter.
Where's Trace McSorley?
He's better than
on
any of
list?
the people who are on the waivers.
Okay.
Like the top. So if I go on to waivers real quick and look at who the best quarterback is available, by projection, it is Gardner Minshew, and then Zach Wilson. By season total, it is Marcus Mariota, who is on injured reserve, then Jacoby Brissett, who's been benched, then Matt Ryan, who's been benched, and then we're at Davis Mills.
I could drop a little nugget in the pool here with if I cut Joe Burrow.
What? No. Why would you do that?
That is called collusion,
Yes,
sir.
exactly.
It's not collusion because you might not get him.
Well, I definitely wouldn't get him now because I blew all of my fab. I used the
So
rest
it's
of
not
my
collusion then.
I used the rest of my fab last night
On who?
on players I didn't want anybody else to get.
Well, you could have had Joe Burrow, but instead.
No, I couldn't have. You're not going to
No,
drop
that-
Joe
that-
Burrow. You're
that's
trying to
collusion.
avoid the sack out.
Like this
Monday
type
Night
of stuff
Football.
right here.
Monday Night
is-
Football.
Yeah,
I
it's
am
unbelievable.
laying the 4.5 points and taking the Chargers to win on the road by at least 5 against the Colts. Do we even have to have a discussion here? Who are you guys taking?
Go Chargers, go.
Superchargers.
All right. So that does it for our picks. If you've been competing in our picks contest, we'll send the ballots out this evening. You guys will just fill those out before tomorrow night's game between the Jaguars and the Jets. Good luck trying to catch us because we are all better than you so far this season.
Ease up with that.
It is what it is.
Yo.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
So before we get out of here, one last thing to discuss. Franco Harris found out this morning that he passed away. He's 72 years old. The Immaculate Reception a couple of years ago was voted the most iconic play in NFL history. They did a vote on a lot of iconic plays during the NFL's 100th anniversary season. That was voted number 1. And deservedly so. I mean, one of the most memorable plays in NFL history, in some ways the most controversial plays in NFL history because we don't have a clear view of the catch and whether it was, whether it made impact with the ground or not. So we really had to go with what was called on the field, which was a catch. It also was controversial because of the rules at the time, which basically if the ball hit off of the defender, then Franco Harris could not have advanced the ball after catching it anyway. And so they made the ruling that it had ricocheted off of the receiver and not off of the defender, which made the ball a live ball. So a lot of controversy around that play. So definitely deserved to be the most iconic play ever. Not to mention, it wound up winning the game for Pittsburgh. It was a playoff game. It was their first playoff win in franchise history. They'd been in existence for 4 decades at that point, and they had never won a playoff game until that day. And on top of that, we're 2 days away from the 50th anniversary of that play. The Steelers are scheduled to retire Franco Harris as number 32 at halftime of Saturday night's game. So just kind of crazy timing. But definitely could not let this podcast pass without mentioning him, that play, and the history that it added to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. Don't really have much to add. Rest in peace to Franco Harris, one of the best to ever do it.
So on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap up this week's show. This was episode 223 of the Sports Ballers podcast, the penultimate episode of 2022. We'll be back next week, leading into New Year's, leading into Week 17. We'll talk a little bit about our fantasy championship game, which I'm hoping to be in, Sean is hoping to be in, but Brandon and William are also hoping to be in. We'll talk about the Week 17 matchups, give an update on the playoff picture for the NFL, and all that good stuff. If you enjoyed the show and you made it this far, we appreciate you listening. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and Amazon. Whatever your favorite podcatcher is. We've got all the major ones covered, but if you have another podcatcher that you prefer, let us know, and we'll look into getting our show on there. You can follow us on Twitter at SportsBallers18. I am at Corey Puffett. Eric is at Quagmire67, and Evan is at Evan_Ash13. So you can follow us individually on Twitter. And you can also like our show on Facebook. You can email us, thesportsballers@gmail.com, if you have any mailbag questions. If you'd like to join our picks contest, it's way too late for the season long, but if you want to compete with us for the week, by all means, you can still get a shout out on the show and on the weekly blog post with our picks. You can find our picks online after the show this evening. Any shout outs from you guys tonight?
Nothing's coming to mind right now. I don't have anything.
Eric?
Shout out to the Argentinian and French national teams that competed in the World Cup final. And, as listeners are probably keenly aware, none of us are particularly big soccer fans, but I tuned in for that match, watched the whole thing, and it was, really, really good.
I only caught like the last 15 or 20 minutes of it, and it was really, really good.
Yeah.
If that was what soccer was like all the time, I'd actually be a fan of soccer.
Absolutely.
But it never is, except for that one time.
It was, in terms of perspective, it was one of the most insane combinations of talent on the field at the same time for the biggest stakes, right? People talked about how it's we've seen NBA finals or Super Bowls or, head-to-head situations where you've had two all-time greats going at it. But usually one of the guys doesn't play well, and that's usually the guy that loses. In this case, both Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe were balling out and were the reasons why their team was either in position to win or actually did win. And it was a fantastic display. Like Corey said, if that's how soccer was played every day, they might have a few more American fans. But for that day, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was. And it ended just in time for football, so the timing was also excellent.
And that's something I will give soccer credit for is throughout the World Cup is, most of the matches, if they're regulation, they end after 2 hours. It's not a 3.5-hour marathon like baseball can be. So at least if you're not interested, it's over in 2 hours and you can go about your day.
Yeah, no, that's true. No, I don't think I have any shout outs either this week. Merry Christmas to all of our fans and to everybody. Hopefully you all are having a great holiday season. If you're going out of town, safe travels, stay safe, stay healthy.
Stay warm.
Stay warm. It's been pretty cold out there. Today was the winter solstice, so days will be getting longer from here on out, which is good news. We'll be back next week with episode 224 of the Sports Ballers podcast. Eric will be hosting that one. And until then, Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you all later.